Okay, Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before we get into the main topic, bro, I just have to, I don't know why, it's just a thing, bro. We have to discuss like whether you were World Cup maxing or not. No? Well,
Barely,
barely.
barely. I think I watched one game,
You just watched until
which was the
Tunisia were kicked out, which is basically like you didn't watch anything.
no, I didn't watch any of the Tunisia ones. I think I watched one Morocco one. I think they were against France. I think I watched that one. And did I watch? Was who did Argentina? Oh, England, and Argentina. I think I watched most of that,
Okay.
but that was it really.
Okay.
But prior to that, I hadn't followed anything really. I hadn't. They were so late, and it just wasn't compatible with my. I got distracted there. You know when the computer comes up with all these like black bars, like someone's hacking into the
Mhm.
system. My laptop's just on its last legs, so all of that popped up. You know, I was still here in the matrix. Um, sorry, yeah, I haven't really been following it. It wasn't compatible with my lifestyle right now.
Yeah.
Like some of the matches, like 2, 3, 4 in the morning. It was crazy.
Yeah, it made me think actually, every time the World Cup's in a different region, it obviously it makes it more accessible time zone wise, like you're saying, but even for people to actually attend. So imagine like it being in North America, it opens it up to all of South America to like attend. It'll be like cheaper and stuff for them to attend more than like Qatar, for example, last time.
Right.
Whereas Qatar was made it more accessible to, the Middle East, to Asia, this and that, Europe maybe. So each time it's a bit different, I suppose. But although I didn't watch one full match at all, even though I was actually kind of, I would have liked to, but you know how it is. Um, but the vibe seemed a little bit off. Seemed a little bit dead this time. I don't know. Maybe I'm
Mm,
biased. Maybe because the Qatar one seemed like, oh yeah, it's
mm,
like it's all going on, you know. But okay, alhamdulillah. I think
yeah.
everyone's happy that Argentina lost. It's like one of them. It's like we don't care that Spain won. We just want Argentina to have lost.
Yeah, that's what it seems to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
People get really into it though, and people switch. What's the word? They switch loyalties very quickly. I see online. So
Mm.
I guess people had fun. I don't think it was yeah, like you said, it didn't seem like a very engaging World Cup. But I wasn't very engaged. Maybe it's just the season of my life. I
Yeah.
just couldn't really keep up with it.
Exactly. There's one brother. I don't know if you've seen him on like Instagram and stuff. His name's Aslam, I think. He's like I think he's half Algerian, half Moroccan. Okay. It seems like he lived in France and now he lives in the UK. Okay. So he was
Okay.
supporting. I think Morocco played first. So he was supporting Morocco, then Algeria. Then when Algeria was kicked out, then Morocco. Then Morocco's kicked out, then France. And then France was kicked out, then England. So just to take it
Yeah,
whatever he can get.
you got to pick one, haven't you?
Kind
Yeah,
of, yeah,
absolutely,
kind of.
absolutely.
Okay, bro, I've got a juicy topic today, a topic that everyone loves. One of the best topics, tremendous topic. Um, and I want you for this episode, I want you to take off your I have to give you I need to come up with a sick name for this. But like your
Go on.
I need you to take your love coach, your Mr. Love Coach hat off. And I want you to,
Okay.
because you're always in that mode, bro. And I want you to put on the hat of an elder brother and a father.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
So we've spoken many times, probably 2, 3 episodes, about the drop in fertility rate. Okay. People not having as many kids.
Yeah.
And we actually kind of flopped on some of those episodes because we were talking about the reasons people are not having kids, assuming that people are coming together, but they're not having kids. But apparently, one of the big reasons people are not having kids is people are not coming together in the first place. And then you might think,
Okay.
why is that? And that is the juicy part, I think, because there are some factors that went right over my head. And I came across this very interesting video that covered all these factors. So I wanted to kind of cover it with you and maybe I just feel like it changes your paradigm and the way you think about it when you think, damn, in whatever 10, 20 years, my kids are going to be in this situation. Even if I'm married, my
Yeah.
kids are going to be in this situation. And who knows, the world will have gone even more extreme in these things that I'm about to get into, right? So that's why I wanted to think of it from that point of view, because I think quite a few of the listeners are not married. Maybe, by the way, they might not,
Mm.
they might even be 28, 29, 30, 31, and they're not married and they want to be married, but it's just not working out. And it seems to be there's this narrative out there that, oh, it's harder than it used to be. Okay. Whether that's
Mm.
true or not, for me, it seems to be true. But I think when I bring up some of these points, you're going to see why it might be more difficult, right? And
Yeah.
maybe we
Go
can
for it.
think of like what we can do about that kind of thing. So the whole concept is like people are not finding it harder basically to be a couple, right? To find someone suitable, to find someone, either to
Yeah.
marry or, remember, this is talking about Muslims and non-Muslims. So even the non-Muslims, finding someone that they would settle down with, have kids with, with or without marriage, basically, for them, it might not be a big deal. So the first thing is that women are not finding it, marriage, let's say, to be a balanced kind of trade anymore, if you like. Okay. So before, this was the trade, okay, between a man and woman. When they come together, what does each side get? The man, so okay, what does the man, let's say what the man gives and what the woman gives, okay? The man would give love and companionship, let's call it. The man would give financial
Mm.
security to his wife, and the man would give social acceptance, because being unmarried was like, there was a stigma around that. Amongst, many Muslim cultures, there's still a bit of a stigma around that. But in the West, especially, I think that's going down a lot. And not even just in the West. And you can see how, with the amount of divorce and stuff happening, this stigma will probably go down just by force, even in Muslim, cultures. So that's what the man was providing: love, financial security, and social acceptance. What was the woman providing?
Mm.
Love, or companionship, or whatever you want to call it. And then she would take care of the kids, like the majority of the work, and she would take care of the house. Okay,
Mm.
that was the old way. But for many societies, some Muslim, but mostly non Muslim today at least, that is not happening anymore. The man is not providing financial security because a lot of women are actually earning more than men.
Mm.
And the man's not providing social acceptance because women are less and less expected and pressured into having families, getting married, having kids, etc. Obviously, this is more of a non-Muslim thing, maybe, but etc. So the woman is still providing what she was providing, right? Because the studies show that even a married woman in a very so-called like egalitarian society, she's still doing most of the childcare and most of the housework.
Mm.
So women are basically, this is the narrative at least, women are saying subconsciously, what do I get out of this? Okay, I'm getting like love, companionship, but that's kind of it. So that's basically the first hurdle to get over. Assalamu alaikum, Mind Heist listeners. I've got a brand new YouTube channel that I've just launched and it gone off to a bang. And it's all about hijrah, global living as a Muslim. I've lived, alhamdulillah, in 4 different Muslim countries, although I was born in the UK. So if you're interested in that at all, you're either living abroad or you're thinking of making the move, then check out the link in the description for my YouTube channel. And I hope you enjoy and benefit.
It's interesting because Muslims who are, practicing Muslims looking to get married are quite. It becomes quite transactional for them because it is a focus on what can I get out of this, as opposed to, let's say, non-Muslims who have been dating for however long, develop feelings for each other, possibly if it's working out, strong feelings, and want to cement those feelings in a marriage of some form. The transactional, whatever you call it, has already happened with them. If they're living together, or they might have already had kids together, frankly, um, or not. But a large amount of the benefits of marriage have already been had. So marriage itself becomes a symbolic
Yeah.
act. Whilst for many Muslims, marriage is the front door towards that
Yeah.
lifestyle. However, without the feelings, without the love and affection necessarily pre-established. So we do move towards more of a transactional expectation. And there are obviously hallmarks to why we would increase in that. We talk about it all the time, like social media influencers, other forms of influence, what you can get out of an XYZ marriage. You've got, you've had, I suppose, a lot of female influencers speaking about the material aspects that you can get out of a marriage, like mahar discussions and debates. I want a guy that has a G wagon. I keep seeing that all the time. That seems to be a running theme. Men, men is it's men. I think are spoilt for choice as well, in a sense, because, and I think both parties are actually, in a sense that there's always this possibility of someone better than whose your potential is right now, because we live in that flick left right, what's it called, Tinder culture. Um, Women are more on display more, men are on display more, and each party can think, okay, I've got this person in front of me. They seem very good. They've got this much of wealth, but there might just be someone just a bit better. So maybe I
Yeah.
shouldn't,
And
you know,
that will come.
maybe I
Yeah.
shouldn't.
That's part of the issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what about in terms of, because by the way, what the data showed, and again, a lot of this data is probably more skewing towards non-Muslims, but what the data showed is that men's interest in marriage has been pretty stable over the decades, but women's interest in marriage has
Okay.
plummeted, right? And
Yeah.
part of the
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the way it was framed is part of the reason is that those benefits that a woman used to get out of marriage, she's no longer getting.
Yeah. No, yeah. I wouldn't disagree with that necessarily. Um from that from their perspective. Only because we don't have those traditional roles anymore. They've been pretty much eradicated largely. That to find a brother that is able to, earn enough to look after a woman and keep her at home, it's quite slim in the modern day, at least in the Western world, let alone the Muslim world. Um, there's an expectation as well in many parts of the Muslim world. I know it's very strong in Tunisia for man and woman both to work. A lot of people, a lot of young people are very highly educated in North Africa. Al Bark and the universities and this and that, and they'll just keep studying, and then all of that effort and all of that work just to get married and stay at home is something really quite almost derogatory to a lot of women and a lot of
Swallow.
families, I suppose. So there's an expectation that you've studied so much and you're qualified so much. So why would you not even ruin, but like throw that all away, that hard effort and hard work? And we have a boomer class of parents that show off with their kids. ولدي قاري, ولدي طبيب, بنتي طبيبة, بنتي what is it, محامية, all this stuff, lawyer, doctor, etc. So there's I don't really know if there's an aspiration marriage as much as there is an aspiration for careers in the Muslim world. We've had a long focus on education, but also marriage in those countries requires education, requires you to be established and have a khidmah and have a dar and have this and have that. Otherwise, you take out a massive loan and live the rest of your life in debt, which then increases exponentially the chance for divorce anyway. So you see lots of people, unless they're super successful, seeing marriages break down, thinking, "Oh, I don't really want that," unless the person I marry is already very well off. They don't have financial issues. Okay, you've got that. You married that person, but what comes with more money, Aki? Or temptation, more options. So even that doesn't work out. So there's fitan in every pathway, and really and truthfully, maybe it goes back to us being close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, back to this deen, because that is
In
the
what
only
way
saving grace.
specifically?
I think people are looking for avenues. Well, the fitan that break down marriages tend to be the things that are impermissible for us anyway, right? To some
Okay.
degree. Uh, so issues with, I think you've got people that don't get married for material reasons, the potential doesn't have enough, etc. Or they're just thinking about the dunya maybe a bit too much, and there's a little tawakkul. But also, they might not be prioritizing somebody on deen, etc. About the Muslim world a bit more here, not necessarily exclusively practicing people. But then you've got a high focus on people that are economically better off. So focusing on finding someone with that in them to marry, women focusing on that. And I have a feeling, maybe it's just an intuition, maybe it's just, I feel like people that are much better off, these kind of ideal husbands that people are looking for with all this wealth, they also have access to a lot more fitan, a lot more temptation, a lot more things that eventually break down marriages. Why are rich men and women, or why are rich husbands getting divorced? Like what's led you to that situation? And if you look into the situations, generally it seems to be things about infidelity or gambling or something that's, you know, or even, if you really want to go there, you could talk about, the discussion of multiple wives and all that sort of stuff. I feel like that's a minority, to be honest. I don't think that's even worth,
Yeah.
debating. I think a lot of women seek divorce because of infidelity when it comes to people that, do that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, my mind's just going obviously different places. But ultimately, what I think I'm trying to say is that it's a lack of focus on our path and the reason why we're here, on worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you find if you find somebody that's truly about that life, then you're minimizing your chance, I'd like to think,
Let me make it
for issues
let me
to
make it
arise.
like visceral for you, okay? So
Go for it.
your eldest son, Suleiman, he's, 20 something, and he's
Yeah.
considering marrying a sister. So he works and she also works. And let's say even you kind of need more than his salary to live. So let's say the way it's looking is they would both be working. Okay. What would you
Mm.
advise him to do in terms of those, like distributing those roles types of things, the stuff that just needs to be done in a
Yeah, I mean,
family?
I don't think I live in a bubble and I think I am grounded in reality, and I'm very aware that we live in a society where many people have to have two partners working, and that can be a limiting factor in the size of the family that you're planning. You might not be able to have so many kids. You might only have one or maybe two children. Okay, so what kind of things are in your arsenal for that? Let's say one child situation. Um, you've got, if you're really going to plan a family, you've got the possibility of, husband and wife working for a few years, saving up money and planning ahead to have a child, um, just to grant yourself a financial buffer. If the wife needs to take time off work, I mean, there's obviously maternity, leave and all this sort of stuff that the UK has. But then after that, you've got to look at your childcare options as well. You've got to see if you've got extended family that can help with childcare, or any childcare places like, I don't know, nurseries or babysitters or whatever
So
it might be. You've got
would
options
you like
whether,
encourage him to go into the marriage with a kind of spoken or unspoken agreement that they're both working, but the ideal or the aspiration is for only him to work? Is that kind of?
yeah, I think there's always that goal, I think. And I think you're trying to find a woman with those traditional aspirations and qualities about her, but also with the, you know, the knowledge and the reality that that may not always be possible in this day
Yeah.
and age. So you don't want someone that demands either
Yeah.
or. Someone who aspires to be, I'd love to be at home and
Right.
raise
Right.
children,
Right.
etc. But I'm
So
aware that that
yeah.
may not
So
be
it's like the
possible,
aspiration
right?
being there, whereas
You want someone
yeah,
realistic.
whereas there are some, definitely some sisters though who, part of their goals in life, like they may have the goals in life that they do want children, they love to have children, but they're like, I equally have aspirations of doing this career related thing, this work related thing.
Mm,
So you might
yeah,
say that's trickier type of thing
yeah. It's
because
a
then they're
challenge, I
not
think, because if you were to
sharing the same
say,
kind of aspirations.
if you made it, you know, unrelenting goal that every single man has to be able to afford, essentially two wages to raise a family, you're then creating a bigger fitna of, well, look at half the men in the UK. Muslim men might not be able to get married. Then that opens a door for other fitan. For how long are they not going to be able to get married? Not everyone can be an entrepreneur, or not everyone can be a successful, team leader or businessman, whatever it takes to earn X, Y, Z. I mean, the rent prices are through the roof. Everything's expensive. What do? Do you just tell them, suck
You're
it
a
up?
big boss, bro.
I mean, I think I was looking at a few videos about just the hustle culture in general, how it just gives the illusion that with enough hard work and enough courses and enough YouTube videos, you can make it, you know. Um, but sometimes making it also means that you're no longer as present as you possibly could be in another life
Yeah,
for your
yeah, yeah.
kids. I know guys that are working 2, 3 jobs just to do what you're saying, but then the mother ends up raising the kids on their own
Yeah,
anyway.
it can really
So
drag on.
is it worth it? It can drag on, and then your whole life has just been
Yes.
work. Your kids have very little any impact from your presence, if there is
Yes.
any.
It kind
Um,
of
and I think I've seen this quite a bit actually with brothers that are trying to marry from back home. So they'll have this like expectation that, women back home are traditional, and I'm going to find myself, live whatever life they might have lived and go and marry back home. Well, a lot of women back home, whether it's the Muslim world, whether it's North Africa, they'll think, oh man, in the UK, oh, he must have money, you know. So my expectation is actually this, this, and this, and
great.
this, and they get flabbergasted, bro. They haven't got a
Yeah.
clue. So what all these juvenile solutions, I think, to the problems that we're facing are ridiculous and just need to be met with a level of maturity and
Yeah.
realism. Um, I saw sometimes I see things on TikTok and Instagram and stuff. I was flicking through one day and I saw like five. I think it was like 5 women, Muslim women, making dua on a video saying, "Oh Allah, I want a man with a G wagon." And that just becomes, if you've got 5 women doing that to thousands of people, that just becomes a culture. That just becomes influencing. And I'm not saying that it's impermissible to ask for such a thing. Allah is capable of granting everybody dua of that nature. But it's also quite sad that that's what's viral.
100%.
That's what we're
100%.
talking about now.
Yeah.
And
And I would,
yeah,
so I'll just wrap up this point by saying I agree with
sorry,
you
yeah,
on the, like, what you could tell your son or whatever. I think there's also,
mm,
we have to think not as individuals, not as nuclear families, but kind of part mind as a community, as a part of community as well. And part of being in a community is
mm,
like, I don't raise my daughter and then spoil her and then she gets married and it's like your problem now, right? You have to,
yeah,
so
mm,
just like you're talking about the G-Wagon thing, so you raise your son a certain way to take on responsibility and be realistic, like you said, and all that. And for your daughter, like, no matter how wealthy I get, I don't want to spoil any of my kids. I want my sons to be
yeah,
raised, to have that, not just a taste, but have a good portion, good serving of hard work and stuff. And same with my
yeah,
daughters, really. I am quite wary of them being spoiled. And what's the point of thinking that way? It's kind of like in relation to marriage. It's like if my I want my daughter to marry someone who's going to allow her to live the same similar type of life that she lived with me. Now, if I spoil her, the amount of people she can marry and live similar to how she lived is going to be decreased heavily, right? If it's decreased
Mm,
heavily, she's
mm,
got less chances, or just probability wise. And I've caused issues now, not just for her, but for the whole community. You see that?
yeah, of
Secondly,
course.
is like you said, the aspirations being for material stuff, right? That being like the focus and being a big part of your kind of criteria for marriage. That's something that, again, it's my responsibility to raise my kids in the right way, right? And so by
Mm,
raising my daughter not to be like that, and to aspire for to marry a good brother who's close to Allah, who fears Allah, and where she might ask for certain decent mahar, she has some
yeah.
self respect, or whatever you want to call it, but for that not to be her aspiration and her goal in life, type of thing. Again, I've not only done her a favor, I've done the whole community a favor. So that's why I would say,
Mm, mm,
like, on the daughter's side, right? And again, if you're advising any woman, you can give that same advice, but obviously you have more influence over your own daughters or whatever. So that was like the first big hurdle. And I think with some of the things
yep.
we said, alhamdulillah, with our worldview as Muslims, we can kind of navigate that in a certain way, right? We have some tools for that.
Yeah.
Another very interesting one, though, bro, is isolation. Okay, so what isolation
Hmm.
meaning? Not that people are like lonely, where they like wish they would meet people, but they're actually choosing to isolate themselves. And there's like,
Right.
think 10, 20 years ago, like we were raised like around 20 years ago, whatever. We used to go out a lot more, man. Even I guess I feel like I went out a lot more than people my age in the UK, but still, yani, my generation, we went
Mm,
out. Like when I finished school, I went out. I played a bit at home, but I would be out in the street. Then when I got a bit older, I
yeah.
got into like rugby. Okay, my dad would take me to rugby practice. When it was the weekend, like when was our weekend? Was it Thursday, Friday? I can't remember, bro. But anyway, I think it was Thursday, Friday. So that would mean Wednesday night, I would go out, bro. It was always out, go out, out,
Yeah.
out, out. I would beg my dad to let me go out. And then I'll be like, oh, can I come home at 11, at 12, at this, and then, bro,
Mm,
man, I got these for memories of my dad like calling me. And I'm like, oh no, I can't answer because I can't tell him that I'm on the way home yet. Let me answer when I'm on the way.
yeah.
um,
Oh
so
God.
anyway, we used to go out, bro. But apparently, and I think we see this just from the online culture and the culture that there is now, a lot of people, they don't go out to restaurants, they order in. They don't play out in the street, they play
Right.
video games. They don't,
Right. Okay.
they don't go and have a five-a-side football. They go to the gym on their own. They don't,
Yeah.
oh, wow. What is that? Bro, this insect, it's hitting the
Maybe.
wall with such force. It makes me think it's like a beetle, not like a moth, you know what I mean? Like a massive beetle.
Maybe.
Anyway, so, but these days people are basically doing everything on their own and usually indoors because of that. So obviously being indoors is not good for
Right.
you, but being alone that much, what it's trained two behaviors basically in people. Number one, they're addicted to convenience. Is that good for a relationship?
Okay.
Like, no, right?
No. No.
And number two, they don't know how to have relationships with people. They don't know how to navigate relationships or difficult times or disagreements or compromises. And so this,
Yeah.
again, this is something I would say 100%. This is touching Muslims just as touching non-Muslims. You know what I mean? So, and
Yeah.
this could explain less people getting together, and it could also explain a higher divorce rate.
Yeah. I suppose for for non-Muslims, social settings become settings that can only be sort of tapped into with social lubricants like alcohol and drugs and stuff, right? To make it easier to socialize. Where do people go? Like we don't have a coffee culture in non-Muslim society in the UK. We have bars and clubs, and I suppose there is
But
the
even
gym,
that's getting
but
even
most
that's
gyms have
going
people
down,
wearing
bro. Like
headphones.
apparently Gen Z are drinking way less. Maybe they're taking more drugs, but they're drinking way less.
Okay,
And the thing
yeah,
with drugs is there's quite a culture of taking drugs on your own as well, isn't it? Or like
yeah,
just
of
one, two
course.
people.
But when they go out, like them going out. But you know what? Both sides, I suppose, have got that because you speak about yourself going out, for example. You going out or a Muslim man going out, practicing Muslim man going out, also doesn't really leave much room for interacting with, women or finding a
Okay,
potential.
yes, but
Messages are
that's not the problem here. The problem is not that you you're not mixing with women, or the opposite gender, or whatever.
right.
The problem is you just don't mix with people, and therefore you don't know how to navigate relationships in general.
Oh,
Okay, so
okay, right. I thought it was opening up.
you might
Okay, yeah.
have heard of certain brothers, and you've told stories of certain brothers when they go to propose to a sister to get to know her, whatever. They just say the most weird, awkward
Mm.
things.
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah. But you know what? That I think we're both touching on a very pertinent point because I do think there is. I need to word this carefully, but I think there is an over. What's the word? An over. I want to say over focus. I think we've pushed certain forms of segregation to extremes to the point that when it does come to interacting with a female, many men are just absolutely clueless. You should be able to, in your local Muslim community, have an interaction with a woman about something important, whether it's a community event or a meeting or whatever, and just know certain adab about talking to the opposite gender, right? It should be something normal. And I think, for a lot of guys that might not have sisters or might not have any of the opportunities to interact with a woman in a normal, healthy way, they just fumble and they don't actually understand how do you learn the difference between a man and a woman without any interaction? Just by what you read in a book or what someone says on YouTube. Like right now, you've got tatism spreading like
You've
wildfire.
got
Teaching
you
young boys
basically
who may have never interacted with a
you
woman.
if you've not interacted with women much, and then you like watch YouTube, that you've got these guys who are teaching you what women are like, and you're just taking it
Yeah,
for granted that that's true.
yeah,
That could happen, yani.
pickup artists
Yeah,
and stuff. Hmm.
women are like this,
And
women are like that,
look,
women are good. Like,
yeah, I'm starting to see it more and more. Like the more I grow older, the more the more this fact is hitting me in the face, and the more I'm brushing up against people with I suppose a very traditional mindset. I'm not saying the traditional quote unquote mindset is right or wrong, but and then I read like a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ interacting with women, for example, all sorts of women, women that he was married to, women that he wasn't, as a community leader. And I'm thinking, okay, Prophet ﷺ had experience talking to women. He knew how to, like, well, okay, I know he's an older woman, but remember the joke he made with that elderly lady who said there's no old women in Jannah, things like that, right? Now, and then I see like okay, masjid politics about segregation, and I've been seeing it a lot lately because we've been kind of more involved in running events lately for families. So we're brushing with this issue of segregation quite frequently because the understanding some people have of segregation can be very rigid. Whilst in reality, if I need to if I need to like go near the women's section to pass my baby over to my wife, that's actually very practical, a practical thing that I'm doing, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. But if I go anywhere near the women's section, some brothers might put their arms up in the air. But the moment we both leave the masjid, oh, I'm brushing shoulders with you while I'm buying something from Tesco's. I say hello to the cashier. Thank you very much. Please, thank you. Like everything's out the window in different settings. So it's just fascinating how we sometimes create these barriers for
yeah,
ourselves. Anyway, we've had the benefit of maybe going to school, mixed schools, having female teachers, learning, Every interaction is going to be positive and beneficial to the average practicing Muslim, but there's still a lot of experience that is had there. So when it comes to maybe speaking to a woman, for marriage or whatever, you're not going to say something absolutely ridiculous that's going to, because I've seen it, Akhi. I had obviously people asking for my sister's hand and stuff. It's people that I know, and I'm like, oh, you sound like a good brother. And then I'll read the WhatsApp message that he, because we used to do these group chat things.
Yeah.
So I would see, I'd be in the discussion when they're getting to know each other for marriage. And I had this one time where I just called the brother up immediately before my sister had a chance to respond. And I was like, what in the world are you saying? I was like, what? You do not say those things. Like, what? Anyway. And I just realized, actually, you know what? A lot of guys are absolutely clueless and they've got zero experience. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. There's like a level of emotional intelligence. I'd speak to a woman. A lot of guys approach things as a very logical 1+1=2 thing. And women don't necessarily prioritize that or think like that. Maybe you need to, appeal to the emotion a bit more. Maybe you need to appeal to the spirit of the law, so to speak.
How do you fix that
So
for your son?
there's all of it.
How do you make sure your son's
Yeah,
never
how do I
got
fix that?
that?
Perfect. So
Yeah.
I'll tell you. You know what? I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
So during these, a friend of mine, he is divorced. Okay, he has a little girl and a little boy, and his little girl is Khalil's age, so 3 years old. Okay, now his ex-wife is not Muslim, right? But he's now concerned. Now he's got this thing in his head that, oh, I need to protect my children's Islam. I don't have them most of the time, so the time I do have them, I need to be a positive influence. However, I have a little daughter, he says. How do I get her to be influenced by other Muslim women when I've got no Muslim women in my family? This is his
Yeah.
dilemma. So I thought, okay, this is a conundrum. You're the only Muslim influence that she'll have. There's no other female Muslim influence. You want your daughter to grow up and put a hijab on. You want your daughter to be close to Islam. You want your daughter to have all these things. What do we do? So he made dua. He was making dua. I want a community. I want a community. We don't have a community like we used to do, etc., etc. And what's he going to do? He's not going to walk in the sister's section and sit with his daughter, is he? Like, what is he? So we started working on things together. So I started inviting him to the house, bring his daughter along. She plays with my kids. My wife is a bit like an auntie to her now, so we started there. Then we had another brother with a family. He wanted to do these events in the masjid. So we started attending this. And suddenly we have like boys and girls all running around the masjid, husbands with their wives sort of organizing things for them and stuff. And it was positive and it was healthy and the kids are getting to know each other. Suddenly we have like a room full of kids that are growing up together. And then, I got to meet other families. There's another family. I've seen them before a couple of times, but never really interacted with them. This brother has got 4 daughters, bro, and I've got 4 sons, and each one is the same age, more or less. In fact, our youngest were born on the same day.
Next kiss.
Right? And I overheard the mother saying, oh, look, I'd love to, like, they desperately want a boy. We desperately want a girl. So it's just something that came up in conversation. But suddenly I'm like, oh, wow, look. And then we had like this big family, sort of Muslim family barbecue thing that we did. The women were sat on like some tents on one side, the men were on this side, but the kids are obviously running between everyone. I was like, wow, look, we've actually established a bit of community here. Right. And it's fascinating. Everybody's like more or less in terms of the adults, we're in our mid-20s to early 30s. Everybody's respectful. Our wives are here, their husbands are here. So everybody's getting to know each other in that way. But men aren't sitting in circles and singing kumbaya with the women and vice versa. But if we need to go over and pass something or whatever, and I was like, this is how it should be. Because I now know, okay, these kids here, I know their parents. So if something happens and I see them in the street or whatever, I know who their parents are. Their parents know who I am. Everything's transparent and we can be a bit of a community, just like in the village that we all aspire to be part of. It takes a village to raise a child, as they say. Yeah. We know who the aunties and uncles are, and they know who each other is. And okay, Suleiman knows who Ammu so-and-so is and Auntie so-and-so is. We don't have that in the UK, really, do we? For a lot of Muslims, so we're building it. But likewise, I couldn't help but think, wow, you know what? I could have a daughter-in-law in this crowd one day. and I've seen them grow up, so I know them
Yeah.
deeply. I've and but we go to boxing together. We do all these events that we're doing together. In boxing, these girls are coming and
Your
punching me
sons
up.
will never have to touch a dating app or marriage app, let's say.
And but this is why it's so vital, because ultimately we don't have that in a lot of spaces in in the
But
diaspora.
you see what you're saying, bro.
For
Yeah, this is so important to underline. You are basically saying that what you're doing is a bit of an anomaly, and the default
Hmm,
is actually kind of isolation. Like the default is mom, dad, kids go places. Like they go places just
of
then,
course,
right? And then within them, eventually when
yeah,
they get older, dad is on phone in living room, mom is on phone in, I don't know, kitchen, son is on
yeah,
phone in
yeah,
bedroom. You know what I mean? So the nuclear family is isolated from the community. And then within the nuclear family, the individuals are isolated. The opposite of that is what you're talking about, which is it's not just the only option is not to just go out with nuclear family. You can go out with this wider group, 100%. That's how you're gonna that's how you're
yeah.
gonna
And it's
create not just marriages, but you're gonna create business relationships. You're gonna help each other out. You're gonna
of
teach each other
course,
stuff.
okay, bro. Can I just say, like, I built my whole ethos in these 33, almost 33 years of my life on not asking anyone for anything, not asking favors from anyone. And this last year, I befriended, a brother, that the same brother that I was talking to about earlier with the daughter. He's a very, should we say, helpful brother. He offers help all the time, and you get distracted by the bee or the bug.
Big as a moth,
He will
Yeah.
offer he will offer an incredible amount of help. Will force you to take help off of him, or he'll look for something he can do for you. And that's actually opened up my appetite to help others more. But it's also then allowed me to develop these relationships that we're talking about, because I've gone from a position of isolation to now a position of real life contacts. Because for a long time I was just very much, like you said, WhatsApp and maybe online on the PlayStation, whatever. But through meeting those brothers, for example, I was renovating my garden. One of the brothers said, "Oh, I'm moving house." Asked his wife to ask my wife if I could help. Then I just spoke to him directly. We got to know each other. I helped him move house. Whilst I'm helping him move house, I remembered, oh, this guy probably has a wheelbarrow. Or asked to borrow the wheelbarrow, used it for my garden. Like, suddenly I'm asking for things which I never did, and I'm also offering assistance which I never used to do either.
You're replacing
And
corporations,
it
bro,
is
already.
absolutely it's this community element. Look, remember the impetus. The impetus was this little girl that may grow up one day having no Muslim influence, and I think we take for granted the situations we're in, and I think we segregate ourselves and isolate ourselves. Our women are isolated from each other. Our men isolate themselves. We have, nobody has this impetus to create communities until it's too late and their children are really old and they say, "Oh, where's the community?" And they knock on the sheikh's door and say, "Sheikh, my daughter or my son is misguided. What can you do about it?" But if you had the social replacement for your children, that they, because at the end of the day, they're going to school. They may not have a Muslim community in school. Suleiman does. Suleiman has lots of Muslim friends. And some of those Muslim friends, we actually carry on that relationship. Some of his friends in the school, he goes boxing with them. He goes to these masjid events that we're doing with them. But like Ilyas, for example, my second son, doesn't have any Muslims in his class. So that's become an area of focus for me. So I'm even more now encouraged to try and find other Muslim families with kids that are his age so that he can find his place amongst them. And this isn't just like, another thing is, like, it's not just madrasa. Like, there's madrasa in the masjid. Come to madrasa, they're there to learn, they leave. There is no room for socializing. There's no room for, like, one of the latest events that we've started running, we ran it on Saturday. We're going to run it every Saturday, inshallah. Is literally just soft play and toys for the kids for like a few hours. We'd get the second floor of the masjid all to ourselves. We bought loads of soft play and balls and all sorts of games and stuff. And we just threw it in there and just threw all our kids in there. And then we start wrestling some of them. We start playing with some of them. Um, So sometimes there's tears, sometimes we can be a bit too rough. But the Sheikh wanted us to trial it out and see how it goes before we open it up to wider families. And it went well enough for him to say, yeah, do it again next week. So, yeah, there's just this bunch of families with kids that are like 9 and younger, and we're just trying to create something for them. And I'd love there to be a day where all these kids are older and teenagers, and I can recognize them in the street, and they recognize me, and I'm Amwal, and that's Auntie, and and there's a community there. And I know this is a marriage topic, and we need to bring it back to marriage, but that's how real marriages should happen. Ideally, in an ideal
Yeah,
world, with a community behind each
yeah,
party and a level of reputation and
yeah,
recognition.
yeah,
Because one of the biggest factors of marriages breaking down is that you just don't truly know the person you're
yeah,
marrying, um, and and no one can
yeah,
verify. You know?
100%. You know, my someone I know, they married their who was it? Their cousin's daughter. Okay. They married their cousin's daughter.
Yeah,
And that's their cousin's daughter, bro. You know what I mean? They know them. They
yeah.
actually, I remember, because in my family, I remember that girl when she was born, bro. Okay. I remember
Mm,
because I don't know, I was like 10, or I don't know. No, I wasn't 10. I was probably 13, 14. I remember when she was born. So imagine, like, her mom, her dad, her growing up. Like, it's like, then when it comes to proposing, it's like, oh, we need to get to know each other. Yeah, you need to maybe discuss, your expectations, what your goals are, what you think is good, what do you think is bad. But in terms of, is she a woman of good character or a man of good character? You're not going to ask them
yeah,
that anyway, are you? So
yeah,
that's kind
yeah,
of already established, you know what I mean? So that's how it should be. That's how it was. You know what I mean? That's how people could get married to people they didn't really know. It's because, okay, even if we're not like amazing chemistry or whatever, he's a man of character. You know what I mean? Or she's a woman of character.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's how it was. And like what you're saying, I think that's just what everyone should be doing, bro. And it's obviously more relevant to like diaspora and stuff and minorities, but
Mm,
it's still, even in Muslim majority countries, there's always going to be like subgroups, of the general population, and
okay,
so
yeah,
and so they can
yeah.
establish these same kinds of things. But yeah, man,
Like
100%.
if me and you lived in the same location, our kids would be playing together 100%. Like we know that they'd be growing up together, etc., and they would know each other, and you would know me, you would know my wife, you'd probably see my wife, I'd probably see your wife, probably see your kids, and we'd have that community, and we'd know. And I think I think a lot of the blocks that we put in our way are very artificial and very you know they don't add to that
I
sense of
also think,
community
though, by the way,
whatsoever.
about the masjid
Um,
thing, I kind of understand if we don't want to turn the masjid into a, like, I don't know, like a hangout spot. I kind of get that. And
yeah,
you might say, what's the alternative? Well, you know, unlike where I live in the UK, there's a lot of uh, clean, open areas, open land, parks, this and that. Like, there's outdoors.
of
Obviously, the
course.
weather doesn't
Yeah,
always allow it, but there's different places, man. It doesn't. It's not masjid or
of
nothing.
course.
You
But
know what I mean? Yeah,
no, of course. And look, there's spaces like we've got. So, for example, we're using the main floor is for prayer, and that's not going to get full up during unless it's Jum'ah or Eid or etc. But when you go into so with 3 floors in our masjid, if you go into the second or top floor, that's usually empty space anyway. So we're just utilizing space, and we're utilizing the space in between prayers. We're not doing anything during Asr or Maghrib, etc. We're doing it in between. So it's just about utilizing the space you have, and also once again being practical to the realities that we're facing and the challenges that we face. What what challenge we face in Brighton, for example, is not going to be the same challenge you face in Birmingham. It's not going to be the same challenge you face in Algiers. It's not. You've got to just be practical and look at the challenges in front of you. Like I was even thinking about. I mean, this just thoughts that popped into my head, but like marriage sort of matrimonial services, local ones, in-face community ones, because I had a discussion with a few of these families on how everybody met each other, right? And, some people met each other through mutual friends. Some people met each other through these apps. I met my wife just through Twitter. I didn't actually go on any marriage app ever in my life. So I didn't actually have any exposure to what they're like. But then I've got a friend of mine who's, looking sometimes on these marriage apps. And the vibe I'm getting is like, because of this spoiled for choice that people have, they always think, well, the next wife might be better. I'm talking to this person now and exploring the possibilities, but actually they've got this thing wrong and this thing wrong. Well, the next person that comes up might be better. It's like shopping for fruit. The next orange might be sweeter, or the next apple might have less blemishes or whatever. So I think there's that element as well. I think before people would maybe seize the day. What was in front of them. Like I think about how my father got married, right? My father married his friend's sister, right? So they lived in Southport, his friend's sister being my mum. They lived in Southport, which is up north. Hardly any Muslims, hardly any Arabs, right? So at this time, he was friends. Actually, my father was friends with my granddad, and my father's Tunisian, he's Moroccan, so they kind of cross paths and and then obviously got to know his son, so my uncle. And when my dad was serious about getting married, he thought, what's the only family that I know that are Muslim or Arab? Oh, yes, Ahmed's family, my granddad. And Ahmed has, at the time, he must have had 3 to 4 daughters. I can't remember when my youngest aunt was born, but, 3 daughters. And obviously he liked one of them, so he asked for her hand. My granddad's priority was making sure that my dad had papers. She did. But it just shows you that there wasn't like an app where you could just start flicking through, or like Sport for Choice or whatever. He looked for a good family. He found a good family. He found a good woman in that family, and he proposed. Right, and it was very clear cut.
It's actually the perfect design of what you would like to have in a marriage app in a community. What I mean by that is a community. Yani, if it's not too big, it's going to be based around certain values and norms. Okay, so it's already filtered for those norms and behaviors, and then it's going to have people you already know, like roughly, and it's going to have like some level of choice, but not unlimited choice. And so that's pretty much 100%. What you would want, like in a marriage app. People you can actually trust their background, and they're not lying because you've known them for decades, and people that share the same values as you, and enough that you have some level of choice. That's it. So
and no one's eyes are too wide open. That's another thing, because people will say alhamdulillah for what they have, but not too exposed to possibilities of an alternative which is out there. And I think that's the curse we have now, because not only are you spoilt for choice, and I say sport for choice, but sport for options, potentials, when pursuits, sport for pursuits, I should say, because there's no guarantee anyone you message or whatever is going to be interested in you. But because you're spoiled for pursuits, let's say hypothetically you get one, you marry, whatever, then you're spoiled with alternatives. Oh, I could have had this life. Oh, look at this, how this person's living. Oh, look how that, and from both angles, both the pursuit of marriage and then to prolong the marriage are both tainted with this poison of alternatives and of what could have been. Yeah. And I think that, they say comparison is the thief of joy. And I think it happens on both sides of that spectrum of pre-marriage and post-marriage. And then the busier you can be, the less you can engage with that side of the world, and the more you can focus on what's right in front of you.
Yeah. So isolation, I think, like, basically doing more stuff face to face, ideally having some level of community, even 1 to 2 activities a week for your kids is going to expose them to quite a few people. And you can have certain activities that are for like everyone, and then certain activities that are for subgroups that are just happen to be more interested or less interested in certain things.
Yeah.
But I think basically overall, we have not realized that by buying into more and more and more convenience, which is an easy product to buy, you know what I mean? When Uber tells you you can pretty much have like a
Mm,
VIP limousine service, right? That's how originally it was like introduced. You could just like press buttons on a phone and a car will just show up, like, and like within a few minutes, 10 minutes or whatever.
yeah.
And also how slick it is where you just walk out of the car. You just step out of the car and it's paid. You know what I mean? Like the whole
Yeah.
interface is so
Yeah.
smooth, and they engineered that process, but it's not a hard product to sell. Like, of course, I want convenience and
Mm,
slickness and smoothness, right? But when we bought that product, we didn't realize what comes with it, and what comes with it is the inability to have patience, the inability to navigate difficult times, difficult conversations, the inability
yeah.
to manage your emotions even, perhaps, right? And then the same goes with
Right.
isolation. When you, without really thinking about it, kind of cut off your friends, not cut off like, oh, I'm not talking to you, but just like one weekend not seeing friends became a month of not seeing friends. When that happened,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you could just like order food in and watch Netflix instead, and you didn't have any
Yep.
awkwardness with whatever tensions between friends or arguments or what you, I don't know, people making fun of you, whatever it is, yeah. You avoided that. You bought the easy product of Netflix and Uber Eats, but you don't realize what you lost in return, you know, what you lost in that
Mm,
transaction as well. And I think it's very interesting that these like this stuff is correlated heavily in terms of people that are 40 years old, everyone younger than them, as time goes on, as like you go younger and younger, they have more and more of these traits where they're not able to control their
yeah.
emotions. They're not able to this, they're not able to that. And I also makes me appreciate Algeria because Algeria is still very old school in this sense, yeah, in the social sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Isolation is not really a thing here, bro. Like people will just call. Everything is a phone call. Everything. It's not on an app. It's not on a
Yeah. Yeah.
WhatsApp message, an SMS. It's just call, call, call. Meet up, speak. Bro, people like you know how the culture is, bro. A man gets home from work, and by the way, half of his work day is probably chit chatting. He gets home from work,
Yeah.
and then he'll like I don't know, like have a shower, maybe have a lie down, and then he'll be at the cafe just talking and talking. Like people just talk, bro. You
Yeah.
you
Maybe a
go
bit
to
too
the
much.
shop,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the whole supermarket's designed probably like to make it more economical for the owner. But they get a very small space that they rent out. They cram products into it, but it's set up in a way, and this is part of the design, yeah, is that you have to speak to the shop owner. You have to tell him, where do I
Oh
find
yeah.
this? How
Yeah.
much? There's no pricing. It's
Yeah.
all designed where it's
Yep.
assumed you're going to talk to the owner, right? There's no
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
in
100%.
the UK, for example, there's more and more cashierless thing, right? But here it's like, bro,
Yeah.
you have to ask the price. You have to ask where do I find this thing, and then there might
You're
be
right.
something on
Yeah.
a high up shelf where he has to go get the ladder and he has to get, which one do you want? Oh, that
Yeah.
one.
Everything. Yeah. The counter is the first thing. The counter is at the door, and everything's
Yeah, yeah,
behind it.
yeah. There are a lot of
Yeah.
shops
Yeah.
like
You're
that
right.
as well,
Yeah.
where it's
Yeah.
just like you are
Yeah. Of
not
course. Yeah.
going and getting it yourself and then bringing it to things, scanning it yourself, paying and interacting with zero people. Bro, you could go on a whole shopping spree in the UK and speak to not one soul, right?
Yeah.
Al-
Yeah. It is. It is.
Algeria is the
Yeah.
opposite. And it's so uncomfortable for me, bro. Like I am not that guy,
Mm,
but it's forcing me to be kind
no.
of like that
100%.
guy. Bro, I went to a shop to
Yeah.
buy like some fruit. I just I just couldn't help myself. I started like commenting on the weather to the guy, you know, and they
Mm,
jump at it. They just love it, bro.
yeah.
They're like, yeah, man, it's so humid. It shouldn't be like this. It's not normal,
Mhm.
you know? So,
There are things you
yeah.
can do to both men and women. Well, women I'm not sure about, but there are things you can do to break that and to expose yourself more and to get talking to people. And you've got to do the hard things to better
Yeah.
yourself and your,
Yeah.
emotional intelligence, your psychology. And, I mean, a lot of guys, a lot of girls work retail jobs, for example. They meet and talk to people every single day. Some of that can be tainted by the impetus to sell a product, and whether that's a genuine conversation you're having or not. I am always, though, very kind of pleasantly surprised by, uh, sales associates and stuff that are actually genuinely having a conversation with you. And I get a little bit like, wow, you've got a real charisma about you. And I really kind of appreciate that. And that's really admirable, which is hard to find, I think, in a lot of settings.
They train
Um,
that's
and,
natural charisma out of you. It's like, oh, did you follow the checklist? Did you?
yeah, yeah. It's, there is certainly a huge amount of the population, both Muslim and non-Muslim, that just do not have the ability to speak to someone, and have the confidence to speak to people, and God forbid speaking to the other gender, and how you're going to get through that hurdle, what questions to ask, how to have a conversation, and then it does then boil down to this checklist of things that went back to at the start of, I want someone who can do X, Y, Z. And another sort of side topic, which I sometimes think about, is going back to isolation. A lot of sisters, I think, are genuinely isolated, uh, probably by their own families in a way. And then you see the list. One of the top things on their list for marriage is they want to travel. I want to travel. Before family, before anything. Oh, I want to travel. I always see that. I'm like, okay, why? You say that like you haven't traveled. Okay, you haven't traveled. Why haven't you traveled? Oh, well, obviously the obvious, debate or question about traveling without mahram, etc. So you didn't have the opportunity to travel with your family or your father. So you haven't seen much of the world. So marriage becomes this
Yeah,
escape. This
which
becomes
can lead
this,
to
I'm
bad
out of the house
decisions.
now,
Yeah,
which can lead to bad decisions. It can lead to rushing. I've seen plenty of stories about women that just want to get married just to get out of the
yeah,
house, because they've lived in a household that's very, I don't know, suffocating, I suppose, is the way they
yeah,
would put it. And they think that this man is their way out, whilst the man might have done all this traveling. Nothing's stopping him from traveling. If he's already got the money to get married, he's already got the money to travel. So his companionship, does he want to travel the world with a new partner, or is he now wanting to settle
yeah.
down
There could
and
be
he's
a
done with his
yeah, it
days of
could be a
traveling?
mismatch.
Yeah, or does he want to travel with his boys and have someone at home waiting for him? There's that element as well. So this is, once again, more discussions, more sort of. I mean, what I would say is, I've always thought, I've always wanted a family, right? That was my impetus to get married. And when I found my wife, it seemed to be the same thing. And look, I've just hit my 10-year anniversary a few days ago.
Allah barik.
So I'm thinking, alhamdulillah, that's great. And we seem to be going well, alhamdulillah. So I don't know if people have those aspirations when getting married, starting a family or having a family, or this is what I want, this unit that I have. That was my aspiration. So do people think like that? I mean, do you think people think like that? Do you think that's what they want in marriage?
I think,
Is that primary goal?
yeah, I think a decent chunk, but yeah, and it's less than before probably because of some of the things we've touched upon. There definitely is a higher amount of I want to do what I want to do. I have my goals, and by the way, my goals are individual goals that don't need anyone involved for me to achieve them. Amongst
Yeah.
everyone, there seems to be more of this kind of thing. So there's no doubt that's difficult. Of course, one of the kind of antidotes to that is having an Islamic worldview and having certain aspirations. For example, we talked about the woman used to get this in return. Now she still does the housework, she still looks after the kids, but she doesn't get X in return.
Yeah.
Well, part of the Islamic worldview is that, well, raising your kids is your sadaqah jariyah. It is like, in a sense, it's like your purpose of life, like to get to worship Allah by doing some of these things, right? So sometimes just your shift in mindset can help with some of these impulses that we face, and people seem to face more and more, where basically following your desires, you could say. But I say that because when you word it like having a family, it sounds not so much about you, and it sounds more about a group of people, which obviously is kind of the opposite of
Mm.
just following your desires. So it will entail a level of compromise of your desires, right? So the only way around that is literally beating your nafs and fighting your desires, and having that Islamic worldview where it's actually not about me whatsoever. It's about Allah, right? Ideally, like this is the way
Yeah.
we want to be
Yeah.
thinking. Um, what was I
Yeah.
going to say about yeah? So in conclusion about like the isolation, I just think it's difficult. I think there's a whole generation now that has some level of mild social anxiety. Um, but the good thing
Yeah.
is you can train yourself out of it, and it's not all or nothing. You know, you could start with just what you're comfortable with. But I always tell people, you want to get married and you're struggling on apps, get off the damn apps and go
Yeah.
volunteer at a charity, go volunteer in your masjid, go teach some kids Quran, just get involved face to face in real life stuff, and I believe you'll find someone. And you know what? You'll find someone who's has the same values as you, because you went to places that are on like your values, you know? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
some people, I'm not
Yeah.
endorsing this, but some people they go on treks, like men and women, they go on treks together. And you're gonna meet, if you're a man and you go on a trek, you're gonna meet a woman who likes trekking in the outdoors. Shocker, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So likewise, if you went to
We did a family hike not too long ago.
yeah.
Families and stuff. Well, I suppose these are families and everyone's
Yeah, it's
married, so
different.
it's not
It's
the same
different.
thing.
Even I
Yeah.
remember back in the day,
Yeah.
and again, I don't think this is a good idea, but there was it was like a Dawa initiative that I was involved in, but it kind of fizzled out. But I went to like a couple of meetings where we were like planning what we would do, and it was in the UK, and it was like mixed, and everyone's like 20 years old, and it's mixed, and it was pretty
Right.
awkward, but a certain yeah, and a certain group of Muslims following a certain kind of way of doing things. For them, it's kind of normal and stuff. And that is a huge way, by the way, that they get married and they meet each other. Actually, a couple of the people in that room got married. Yeah.
Shocker. Shocker.
But
See?
I can't endorse that because I think a lot of bad things could happen as well. But you know what I mean? Those two could have actually gotten married
Yeah, of
anyway
course.
because their parents knew each other. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, well,
yeah,
this is it. I think somewhere the truth and the solution is somewhere in the middle. It's not like complete segregation, and it's also not like complete free mixing. I think there has to be a healthy
yeah,
overlap
yeah,
without like complete, because at the end of the day, look, the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ wasn't segregating in the way that we are now. These community spaces weren't segregated in the way that we are now. And I think because of the fear, we may have gone a bit overboard in certain spaces, to the extent like, oh, I don't even know who my friend's daughter is. How am I meant to know if she's in trouble, needs help, or whatever? Or I don't know. You don't know what my wife looks like. Okay, so if my wife is in trouble or whatever, which one is Muhammad's wife, for example? Like, there's all sorts of stuff. Like, there's no element of community or cohesion there, and then you wonder why people can't get
yeah,
married. Like,
yeah,
it is
yeah.
what it is. But we don't have that necessarily in the villages of Algeria or the villages of Tunisia or the villages of
Oh, trust
Morocco.
me.
Like, people know
In
each other.
villages, everyone knows each other, but
Yeah,
that comes with its own problem.
everyone knows each other. Well, yeah, it comes with problems,
Yeah,
of course, but it also comes with solutions to what people are facing
yeah,
here, and there's a
yeah. There
healthy
is. Yeah,
balance. Like, someone knocks on the door in my house in Tunisia. My auntie opens the door. Salam, salam. Oh yes, I'm so. Everybody knows. Oh yes, sister of my dad, for example. Blah, blah. I have a discussion. Okay, see you later. Bye. But there's bounds that they don't cross. They never enter the house if she's on her own. They never like. Everybody knows each
yeah.
other's face and they know what they look like. I know it's crazy that we have
I
to
think,
speak like
bro.
this because when you,
What comes with that though as well, which is important, and it's
yeah,
important even for like your community thing in the UK, is there is a
yeah,
shared understanding of the way to hold yourself.
yeah,
And
100%.
by the way, you could find this. You could have new family shows up to one of your get-togethers, and
Yeah,
they're just like different, and they don't really know how to
yeah,
interact. And
yeah,
at that point, it's going to be, stick or twist. Are you gonna nudge them towards the right behavior, or are they going to like refute, like
Yeah, of
what's going to
course,
happen? But
100%.
that is a big part of it,
And
is I trust you to, like, I don't know who my daughter is or whatever, because I know you know how to hold yourself. And also I know if you
yes,
step out of
100%.
line, I'm going to have everyone backing me up saying you're wrong, that as well.
100%, 100%. And that, like, that's my concern. Like, even, just to be quite frank with you, like, there is a push. Like, a friend of mine wants to open it up now and advertise this thing that we're doing. Whilst I'm a little bit more hesitant, I want to be very selective, kind of like what Sharif was talking about with his
Yeah.
community, in
Yeah.
out in the, I was going to say outback, but he's very selective about who. And I wanted to be a bit more selective because, sure, we had a great first run because a lot of these families already got to know each other from other things that
Yeah.
we've done. Now, if you just open the floodgates, you don't know
Yeah.
what you're dealing with. What you'd rather do is people hear about something, be interested, and then kind of
Yeah.
just sort of
I,
see,
I recommend you
how to
you
do it.
you keep it very closed, bro, because you to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
the benefit that, not to like be selfish, but to get the benefits you're looking for, you literally need like five families, five to
100%.
15
Yeah.
families or whatever, even
Yeah, it's interesting, yeah, because some of the brothers, and be brother. Some of the brothers are not just the brother I mentioned. There's actually another brother and a few others that are like single fathers with daughters, and they're just stuck, bro. They're stuck. They don't know how to. They
this is
need more
exactly what it's
Muslim women
for,
in their
man.
lives to
Yeah.
kind of have the
Yeah.
influence. And likewise, there's probably single mothers. I haven't come across any, but I can imagine a scenario of single mothers with Muslim boys or
Yeah.
whatever, and they want more men to influence their boys. And we're doing the stuff, we're doing the
Yeah.
boys stuff, we're doing the wrestling,
Yeah.
we're doing the boxing, we're doing that kind of thing. So, but like you said, this is my concern. Like, some of the kids like to play fight and stuff. Sometimes you can accidentally overdo one of the kids. To be honest, I overdid it with my son the other day. I gave him a bit of a carpet burn. And then a friend of mine, he will always make one of my sons cry. Maruf, But I accept that. I'm like, oh yeah, he's just playing with you. Come on, man up. If some other guy did that to my son, and I don't know you, and I don't know how hard you. So there is that element. You can't just, and obviously the like we said, Algiers, everybody's going to have a similar normative culture in these kind of diaspora spaces. The just the divergence between people is going to be massive. So there are
Yeah.
risks there, and obviously other risks. You don't know who's with your kids. You don't know what the person's agenda is. You don't know, just because they're married and a father doesn't mean you know there
We
aren't
had
any risks
interesting
involved. So
dynamic in our, like, the English speaking community in Istanbul, where
yeah,
so one of our concerns when there was a new face is, do they work for some intelligence, department? Okay.
okay, yeah,
So that was always like,
yeah,
that
that'll
was
do
always
it.
like one of the first things we kind of wanted to establish. And there were some
Yeah,
faces
yeah,
that
yeah,
showed up, asked some weird questions, and then we never saw them again. And we're like, yeah, we've
yeah, that'll do
probably.
it.
So that
Yeah,
was an issue. But even like within just a few families, there were, and literally, Yani, at least most of the adults were on the same wavelength Islamically, at least what they aspire to be like, etc. But some of the
hmm,
kids were not quite, what their parents would like them to be like.
yeah,
So, some
yeah.
of
I
the
know what you
young
mean. Yeah,
girls, a lot of makeup, a lot of this and that. And then what happens is the other girls start thinking, oh, like they're part of our thing. So is that okay? Or like, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
you've
yeah,
kind of,
yeah. I get you.
there are different groups in it. There's the whole society, which is like your kids might go to school with the whole society. And then you've got a community thing, if you want to call it, and you've got sub communities. And I think that smallest group, which is not the family, but the smallest group above that level, you want those to be like, they are on our exact wavelength. You know what I mean? So you can
Yeah,
tell your kids, yes, amongst us lot, this is how we are. The wider group,
yeah,
we mix with them, we do this and that with them. But yeah, there's some things, Yanni, we just say Allah yahdihum kind of thing.
yeah. I think this is why, like, there should be like what I'm trying to do is invite more, so have more men come to the, brothers
Yeah.
come to the house, with kids and families, bring their kids along as well. But also, like when the guys aren't here, maybe my wife and the mothers come to the house, and like just have the kids
Yeah.
growing up with that
But
kind of
by the way, I'll
exposure,
tell
that
you,
kind of
one of the
community in
biggest
the household as
barriers,
well.
sisters will mix much easier with other sisters, apart from some of the arguments that take place. But
Yeah,
generally,
yeah,
they want it. You know what I mean? They want it. The
yeah,
men
yeah.
don't want it so
Okay,
much, but they might do it. But you have to force them.
really?
That's what I
Okay,
found.
yeah,
Men are just like, look,
yeah.
I have work. I go to work. Maybe I go gym.
I'm more
Like,
type.
just
Yeah,
leave me alone.
I've got my one friend and I don't
Yeah.
need any more. Yeah, you know what? It's funny because some of these guys, bro, it was, I must admit, it was a lot of the women that started
Yeah.
this and they were desperate for friendship. But then I could like overhear my wife would say, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I'll tell my husband." And I'm like, "What are
Yeah.
you telling her?" It's like, "Oh, she's saying her husband wants to meet
Don't
you
ruin
and
my
it'd be good
quiet
for you guys
time.
to." And I'm like, I'm tapped out. I'm tapped out. But no, alhamdulillah, like
But
I forced
what I was
myself to get
saying,
involved.
the
But
one
you
of
know
the
what?
big
The
barriers
analogy,
is the sisters
yeah.
don't want to invite people to their home because they want their home to be perfect when they invite people. This is a
Oh,
big this
100%.
is a
Yeah.
big
Oh,
barrier.
wallahi, you've got it
This
hit
is a
on the
big
head.
barrier. Not to mention,
Yep.
at least I would say the good sisters, they want to cook for guests. But like now you can't invite
100%.
more than XYZ a number of people because it's like
Yeah,
becomes a
yeah,
whole
yeah.
thing.
This is why
So that's why those
this
outdoor
is why I've
spaces are
been
like an
renovating.
easier kind of way.
I don't think you can see it. Oh, can you see over
I
there?
can see
That's why I've been
lights.
renovating my garden,
Okay.
bro. Can you
Yeah.
see my exactly? That's part of my light show.
Okay.
No, that's why I've been doing my
Okay.
garden up because I'm trying to create spaces
Mm.
for more
Yeah.
like guest
Yeah.
activities, especially this summer.
Yeah.
Um, but it is a bit of like a Rubik's cube, this whole conundrum, because you're trying to get one square in a particular space, and you turn it, you get that square where you want, but then you've messed up a bunch of other things on the process, and that's the thing. It's like picking your poison because ultimately it's a dunya. And every time you try and find a solution for one thing, whether it's this, like you said earlier, it comes with its own problems, doing, more people knowing each other. And that is the reality. You do open up the door for other issues to arise.
Yeah.
Um, and you're just constantly fighting fires in every department. But that's the
I
nature of the
think,
dunya.
bro.
You work hard to try and solve
Mm.
one problem, and you may create another one
Yeah.
inadvertently.
Yeah. Bro, I think you should outsource not outsource, open source this. So I mean, I'm sure there are people with very well established communities like this, in other parts of the world, in other parts of the country, whatever. And there needs to be some sort of open sourcing of it. So when somebody wants to do an initiative like this, they could just take the best practices that all you guys have learned and then just set it off
Hmm.
just like that, you know? Um, that was
Yeah.
an idea I got from this. Actually, this is so funny, bro. Istanbul, bro, the neighborhood I was in Istanbul was so hot. I tell you, bro, every intelligence agency was there.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was sitting in a cafe with a friend of mine and we were talking in English. So we kind of stood out a little bit. And there was a guy sitting next to us, like not that far, you know what I mean? And then he heard us talking and then he started talking to us. He's Palestinian. So we started talking Arabic, whatever. And then he says, by the way, this is what made him sound so dodgy. By the way, I was recording everything we were saying on WhatsApp. Is it all right if I send it to this group I'm in? I'm like, what? Like, we just met, bro. And we're in the hottest neighborhood. Oh, anyway, I,
Wow,
I don't know
fantastic.
what that guy turned out to be, but I met,
What kind of discussions are you having? I mean, I should be careful
I don't
around you.
know, to be honest. I can't
Goodness
remember, but it
gracious.
was such a very long time
Yeah.
ago. But anyway, that brother, I saw him a lot, and he was like a retired business consultant. He worked like many years in Saudi Arabia, but I guess he did well financially, and he kind of retired in Turkey. And but he knew a lot of this. He was the one that told me this. He said, I can't remember what kind of community initiative he was talking about, but he said we need to open source this. We need to share ideas
Mm.
amongst people so everyone, you know what open sourcing is, isn't it, when it comes to software, like,
Yeah, of
WordPress,
course. Yeah.
whatever. It's like someone makes I don't know what the word is for it, but some sort of foundation for a software or a way of doing something, usually digitally,
Yeah.
and then they put it available for everyone, and then people can tweak it, and I think that's what's called forking, where you make your own version of that, right? And people
Yeah.
are doing this with AI models. So there are open source AI models where you could take it, tweak it, make it your version, improve it somehow,
Yeah.
and then make that available, right? So I think some like
Yeah. Yeah.
the rules a lot of the time without open sourcing is that if you want to use it, you must give credit like to the original thing. But also if you tweak it, you need to say like where the original thing is from or whatever, or you need to make it available publicly.
Yeah.
So it's quite a really sick concept actually. And you can do it all digitally. So it's like the digital realm is facilitating what's happening in the real world, right? So people can
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
download,
Yeah.
let's say you find a community of like whatever, 30 families in whatever part of the UK, and they've been doing these activities for like 10 years. Imagine you could just download
Yeah.
all their best practices. Like they might say, we
Yeah.
had this issue with whatever gender interactions, and so we put this in place, and since then it's been safe. You know what I mean? Like whatever issues you're facing.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
But I don't see too much of that. I
It,
see the opposite of that is like, pay me this much money and I'll teach you this and that, which,
oh
that's
God.
like
Yeah.
the one way it goes. But for the sake of
Yeah.
Allah, and this is a community thing, like you could just open source.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very niche. The family sort of market for all this kind of stuff is quite niche, and there isn't really. I haven't really seen much like
Yeah.
it. The brother who really started the initiatives, this Dean Nights initiative we had here locally, I'd never even met him before. I'd only met him when this thing was announced. So we went there, and I told there was a curtain for the sisters, but it was semi-permeable, and kids could go back and forth. You could pass your babies back and forth, and if they wanted a hot drink or whatever, the brother organizing and his wife would kind of take orders. Actually, during this lecture that was playing in a projector, they'd take orders from the women. They'd come over, they'd make the coffee because we had a coffee machine and stuff, and the kids were playing quiet play and stuff in the background. So, like I said, it was a space for the whole family to just be in this environment. Other kids, other families benefiting from a lecture that was being projected. There was nothing like it. It didn't stop people complaining. It didn't stop people moaning about segregation and stuff. To the extent that it felt super artificial and performative, it really did feel like performative piety for me, because the men were clearly sat on one side, women were sat on another side of the curtains, but because it wasn't a rigid, like, a rigid, like solid wall, people were sort of complaining. It's like, do you not understand what we're doing here? Like, we're here for the benefit of our kids. Nobody is here to marry a wife. No one's wife's here to marry. Anyway, so it just felt a bit,
Yeah.
artificial, these complaints
So
and
I
stuff.
think we kind of
But
we dealt with this isolation thing. I think like that's
yeah,
that's
sorry,
like
yeah, we have.
that's really good like thing to aspire to. And it is awkward, I think, for a lot of people, but that's just how we've been raised. But now it's like break the cycle in it. The
Yeah,
other thing, which
100%.
is what you touched on already, which is these marriage apps or dating apps or whatever, this culture. Interesting point was when you have limited options, you focus on like the good things of that person and maybe the bad things or the less ideal things, right? But when you have
Yeah,
hundreds or thousands of options, apparently your mind shifts into a different mode, and it shifts into elimination mode. So let me just look. Your mind goes, there are too many options. So let me just eliminate options in a very kind of quick shortcut way. So I get down to a manageable number, and then I can look at the details of the good and the
yep,
bad about each one. But what happens on these apps, of course, is you never get to that manageable number because it's just, they keep showing you new people, new people, new people, right? So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
kind of inherently been built into the apps, or you could say it's built into the way our minds work, that the apps will always keep you in that mode of, oh, but this one could be better, or that one could be better. And you never have, ironically, you need scarcity to
well,
actually help you make a healthy decision.
that's so. My understanding of them is very Tinder in a way that it's just a profile photo with a bit of a bio, and then I suppose a lot. Well, maybe they
I
vary,
think
but my
some of the
assumption is
Muslim
like
ones, they might have
they
little,
copy that
yeah,
kind of
they
like.
just have little things. They have the bio, the photo maybe, but they have like Sunni or Shi'i or praise 5 times a day, just some added
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
So ultimately, I think regardless of what the app is, the majority of them are just going to be look at someone's face, someone's photo. If you're attracted to them, yes. If not, like you
No,
swipe
not
the other
even
way.
that. So
So then it
if you're
becomes
attracted to them, then you read the bio, innit? So then you read the
okay.
bio.
Yeah,
Then the
yeah,
bio's
yeah.
like
That's what I mean.
the
Yeah,
bio like it's not enough to wow you. And if you're in that mode where it's like, let me just eliminate the options to get down to a more manageable number, you're like, okay, there's nothing wrong with that bio, but there's also nothing amazing. So okay, allow it. You know what I mean?
right, right. And that's where it becomes. So you're doing just a photo,
Yeah.
right? So imagine you got bad angle, bro. No, I'm not even saying that. Imagine like everything about you boils down to this 2D digital image. It's crazy, isn't it? Like that's the whilst in the new world, you are forced to naturally interact with someone multiple times before actually getting a vibe from them. You know, so you're forced to sign kind of. That was the thing about like Twitter, like finding my wife on Twitter. I wasn't going out of my way to look for a wife, but at least Twitter gave you a bit of a personality of the individual, what they're talking about, what they're interested in at face value, as opposed to a marriage app where, oh, I know why they're here. Oh, look, there's their photo. That's all you getting before you delve in. And then you have to actually immediately talk to someone about, well, we both know why we're here, talking to each other. It's because we're both on this app. And then it becomes a question of how many people are they talking to? How many people are interested? How many people have you said no to? How long have you been on this app for? And your innate masculine jealousy kicks in and you get a bit like, oh no, this girl's been on it too long. Something must be wrong.
But
I don't know.
also,
I'm just assuming like this is this is where my mind
but
goes.
also like men will get less matches than women, right? So then the women might be talking to
Yeah.
multiple guys at the same time, and then she might like ghost a lot of them. Apparently, there's tons of ghosting that takes place. Um, I think I came across someone giving a tip about this. They said give there was a guy talking about for men how to use these apps. He was like, give them a deadline. He's like, look, my
Oh,
intention is marriage. I'm looking for this. I'm like this. If you're interested enough to take it further, maybe meet or something with your family, then please let me know within 24 hours, you know? And so he's like, that's a way
right.
to get out of the ghosting thing, because it forces them to like either reply or know that it's gone, kind of thing. So it's
Yep.
adding a level of scarcity, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. I'd be interested to see how many people. I don't know anyone who's actually got married that way through these
I
apps.
know one, and you
I
know
have to
them as
think.
well, but I won't bait them out. You don't know them that well,
Oh,
but you know.
oh, I know of them. Okay, that's fine. And you know, how long have they been married for? Is everything? Well, you wouldn't know the details, but I
No,
suppose,
yeah, he's
you know,
married. He's been married maybe like similar to me, you know, like maybe 8 years. He's got two kids, mashallah.
okay,
Yeah,
that's good. They better.
yeah.
Okay, that's all right then. Yeah, I
But
mean, I'm not
there are
saying they're not
details though. There
successful.
are
If
details. For example, his wife is from the exact same like cultural background as him, grew up in the exact same
oh,
place
there
as
you go,
him.
bingo,
Um, you know, like
bingo,
he
bingo,
hasn't had financial issues, you know, mashallah. A lot of things.
like that.
I'm not going to say he's lucky. No, I'm just going to say, well, that's what I think a lot of successful marriages look like, where you have similar culture, similar values, similar religiosity, maybe all of that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, yeah, it's tough. I'm trying to because the older the kids get, the more I do think about this. I know it's early days, of course. You know, Suleiman's 9 years old, and like I've been married 10 years. He's 9. My wife got married at 19. I'm not saying that Suleiman's necessarily going to do that, but in another 10 years, like the last 10 years went by in the blink of an eye. In another 10 years, kid's going to be 19.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to start talking to him about this stuff even
yeah.
earlier than that.
I think
And
to this,
I do think
the
about it.
solution to this is to just not use apps. Like, obviously, when my kids are getting married, inshallah, who knows if the apps will even be a thing, but if they were that age now, or if there was a brother now, I would probably just be like, it's a losing game, you know, especially as a guy, apparently, it's a
Yeah,
losing game. And even for sisters, because men are generally more visual than women, um, you know, my wife always says this. She's like, I don't believe in photos so much. Because you know sometimes in marriage conversations it'll be like, okay, my son is looking,
yeah,
my brother's looking. Oh, you know someone? Oh, can I get a photo? And it's like, you know, when you meet
yeah.
someone in person, and maybe women don't even know this, okay, but women can have this feminine charm about them. Um, just
Right.
a, just an aura, you know. You can have an aura which could be attractive, which makes your photo, which was a 6 out of 10, become an 8 out of 10. You know what I mean? Or your
This is
voice
it. This is
even.
what I'm saying.
You know,
Yeah,
like why is a woman not supposed to like sing in public or beautify her voice or whatever? It's because you can be attracted to a voice like heavily, like you know. So
yeah,
so
yeah,
like both men and women, I think they're losing out by being on the apps. Obviously, I think most people are on it because they're desperate, perhaps, right? Or maybe because they have so much
yeah.
social anxiety that it's just a way of hoping to meet someone without having to actually interact, like face to.
Y- Yeah, yeah, it's almost like window shopping to me. That's how the way it feels like. I just assume that because of the choice element, it's like going on a streaming service and trying to find something to watch. You just end up flicking through for ages, you know, trying to find a decent documentary. Oh, this looks good. Oh no, this one looks better. Oh no, and then and in the end, you just turn it off. You spend the last 3 hours looking for something to watch. So stuff
Yeah,
like that, like spoiled for choice. Um, but look, I do. I actually sympathize more with women in this regard because it's harder for them to go out there and I've got female family members that are still looking to get married, and it's like I don't know how to help you. Like I don't know. I don't. You can't. It's for women. They can't necessarily go out of their way and approach someone. Like the stigma behind that still, and there's barriers behind that. Like, okay, let's say a female family member came to you and said to you, I mean, oh, you know, it could be your cousin or something. Oh, I mean, I'm interested in this particular guy. Can you go and talk to him for me? Like that's a bit unorthodox, isn't it? For a woman to kind of reach out to a
that is
guy,
unorthodox.
it's a bit
It is,
unorthodox, and then
but there's
because of
nothing
that,
wrong with it.
women
Yeah,
refrain. No,
but
I'm
I
not
don't
saying there
think
is,
that's.
but there's
I
still this
wouldn't like.
unorthodoxy about it.
Like I'm not against that, but I wouldn't advise it as like my advice. My advice for women who want to get married: go and find a guy and speak
Wait,
to someone to speak to him. I don't think that's the game as much as you just need, in terms of let's say tying the camel, you just need to let people know that you exist and you're not married. You know, that's it. And not enough people know that you
I don't know.
exist and that you're not married. Not enough people know that. So you have to.
Women have this like women don't have the agency, bro. They're like Fiona in the
Bro, they got
tower
all
in
the
Shrek,
agent.
waiting
Bro,
to be rescued.
we're talking about 2026 UK. I'm talking mostly about the UK, bro. Women are out all the time. Most of these women who are unmarried, they go to
No,
work
but
every day, bro. They go to coffee shops and stuff on their
okay,
own.
but what I'm saying is they have to wait to be approached. They cannot approach good people. So they have to wait for a good person to approach them.
Shmushkin.
It's not the same as a man who can go looking for a good woman and then pick the good woman out. A woman has to wait and hope that a good man approaches her. And let's just say, hypothetically speaking, it's a woman that might not be so easy on the eyes, for example, and is getting passed by so many men just because of that, what's the word I was looking for? Don't say facetious, but shallow kind of thing about appearance and stuff, and that's the only thing they're interested in, then they just sit around waiting forever because they haven't had that opportunity. So I think that there is an issue there. I think there's a lot of good women that just simply don't get approached because they don't, no
Because
matter how
people
much they put
don't know
themselves
that
out there.
they
And how
exist.
much are they going to put themselves? But okay, but I don't think. But even if they know they exist, what's the guarantee that someone's going to
Nothing's
approach them?
guaranteed in life, brother.
This is it.
But
A man is a go-getter.
a man,
A man can go out
yes,
there and shoot his
yes.
shot, and a woman has to
Let
sit
me
there and hope she
no,
gets
no,
shot at.
no, no, no. Let me tell you the process, the system, how it works. Okay.
Okay.
So
Go on then,
a lady
Romeo.
wants to get married. Yeah. A lady needs to get married.
Yeah.
Okay. She, so far, it's not been working out. She needs to be active in her community. See what you talk about? Community? Yeah. She needs to be active.
You might be
She
right
needs to
there.
be active. What I mean is
Yeah.
do stuff with your life, man. If you,
Going to charity events with the intention of getting married.
no, like you can have a mixed intention in terms of do good stuff and
Of course, I
and
appreciate that. Yeah.
and literally literally Musa alayhi salam style, right? Do good stuff and ask Allah for good, and then inshallah Allah will give it to you. But the way it would happen, by the way, it's
Yeah, you're
not
right.
necessary that, oh, you're going to be, I remember in these Islamic events there's like lectures and these sisters like telling people where to sit, and not like that, man. Or guys just going to like faint,
Yeah.
see you and like faint, oh, she's the one. No, man, it's just, it could be
You didn't do that with your missus. I did that with my
it could be
missus.
through a woman, you know what I mean? It could be through, by you going out there and being active, women know that you exist. And then
Yeah, I
and then
appreciate that. Yeah.
when a woman has a son and she desperately wants him to get married, she's like, yeah, Allah, Khadija was there the whole time and I never thought of her, and she started volunteering like 3 months ago.
I never thought Khadija.
And
100%.
she's really nice. She,
Yeah.
this older lady is gonna sell that woman to her son. She's gonna sell her. You know what I mean? So even if she's not so nice on the eye, like you
Yeah.
said, maybe that's an issue. She's gonna sell her son on it. Her son's gonna be like, yeah, if you suggest she's good, you know me, whatever. Khalas, I'll give it a try. I'll
Okay.
give it a try.
How many? How many do you think? This is maybe a secondary question because I know we're talking about community and stuff, and I think we've got good intentions with what we're saying, but how many of us in our generation actually listened and took the recommendations of our parents when it came to marriage? And are we just recreating the same problems that we grew up with? Because my fear is like right now, not fear, but my concern is, I've got these beautiful children running around that one day maybe they'll be good for each other,
Yeah.
right? But they just then associate them as, oh, that's my dad's suggestion or that's my mum's suggestion. I want to live my own life. I'll make my own choices.
Yeah.
You know,
No, I think
we all did it.
it's just purely like suggesting it or setting it up. There's nothing beyond that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's nothing beyond
Okay.
that. I'm not saying that she's going to bully her son into
Yeah.
marrying this this mosquito.
I might.
I'm just saying, like, that is a way. Like, putting yourself out there could mean putting yourself out there to women.
Options.
You know what I mean? So women know you. It's the
Yeah,
women
of
actually
course.
that
Yeah.
make the connections. Women will connect men to other women. A lot of the time, isn't it? So, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
when
Yeah.
my uncle, when his wife passed away, Allah yarhamha, when he wanted to get married, who did he go to, bro, to find a wife? He went to his sister. You think he's going? Well, he goes
Yeah.
to his brother.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know.
No, of course. Of course. Yeah, but he's the go-getter. When a woman wants to get married, what she do? Just like you said,
Yes. So this is the thing.
get on the stage and say, "Here I am."
The thing is, though, when she becomes active, she may come to know of someone she might think is suitable for her, and
Other women. Yeah.
she may want to ask someone to ask him if he's interested or he's open to marriage. She may do that as well. Like
Yeah,
that's like
absolutely.
also an option.
Yeah.
But by being active, you're able to do both options basically.
Yeah,
But
100%.
yeah,
Yeah, and obviously, like
there is
women will
another
meet other
issue.
women that have
Yeah,
brothers, and
there is another issue, which is
go
like,
on.
and I think we forget these people a lot, even though they could literally be the majority of people. So Muslims in the West who live in very non-Muslim cities or neighborhoods, where it's like literally there's very few Muslims, where they might be traveling 20, 30
Yeah,
minutes drive for Jummah because there's so few masajid, so few Muslims.
yeah,
Those people, it's like, what do you mean be active in my community? What community? Like,
yeah,
I'm not in like
yeah,
Whitechapel here, you know what I mean? So for those
yeah, 100%.
people, it's difficult. I would potentially go to these kind of bigger Muslim type of events, conferences, expos, whatever. But then I do think
Yeah,
the online world becomes more of a part of your tying of camel. But I don't know what element of it. Like, I don't know if that's an app or it's something else, to be honest. I'm not sure.
I think, the online world was great when, we lived in the golden age of the online
MT,
world. The
bro.
golden age. No,
MT.
truly, truly. We lived in, the dawn of it was a tool to organize and a path towards the real world. You wouldn't spend all your time online necessarily, but you would actually utilize it as a pathway to go to something, to organize something, to meet up with people. Old Nokia brick phones, I class that as online. That's part of my social sphere. You text someone, you say we're meeting at this place, you go and you meet at that place, and that's what you do. Dude, I still remember just not having that ability and just meeting people. Just saying, hey, on Friday at this time, on Saturday at this time, this is where we're going to meet, and that's just where you would be. You couldn't call anyone to check,
Bro, listen, bro, my battery's gonna
where they
die,
were.
yeah? I'm gonna get my charger. I'm gonna get my charger.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you were cutting off. Get your charger then. Love and marriage, love and marriage. Go together like a horse and carriage. La 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 la. Love and marriage. I've run out of I've run out of love songs. Got to keep the audience engaged. Andrew Tate to stay behind bars while brothers fight extradition to the UK on new
I'm here.
charges. Wow, look at that. So I was just entertaining the audience, singing
Yeah.
love songs.
I heard it. It was beautiful.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. Um, is there any more on that list?
Yeah, so we covered the main one. So the apps thing, I think we kind of discussed how we would kind of deal with that, I think.
Throughout, yeah.
What else was there? Well, yeah, that was the main thing, bro. That was the main thing. I think we covered a lot of
I
the
was looking briefly on.
yeah.
I was looking very briefly on like the biggest cause of divorces, but I suppose there isn't one. But ChatGPT is telling me number one is poor communication. Number two is infidelity. Number three is growing apart or lack of commitment. Number four, frequent conflict. And number five, financial stress. Communication, I think, is important. I think with communication, I think is an element of rahmah that maybe doesn't exist. I think we've got a lot of narcissism in us. There's a lot of narcissistic partners that you can
That's
end
a
up with.
dodgy word. That's a hot word
And
these days.
I was looking at this Muslim psychologist
Mm.
sister who shared it with me. I think it was Historiun, Mr. Ibrahim, who shared it. And I was really, proper qualified Muslim sister psychologist talking about narcissism. And I was like, this is really fascinating. I'll share it with you. If I can find it again, I'll share it with you. But like the inability to actually have empathy is really dangerous. And I think it's really, I don't know how to live like that, but I'm aware that there are people that have that in them. Like genuinely don't know how to empathize with their partner or empathize with another human being. And I don't know if that's something they just have or something they develop in a relationship due to, animosity or resentment. I think a lot of people may focus on what they've missed out on, what they're being held back from, and then blame the partner for that. And that can become, a source of
I mean,
resentment.
a lot of these problems
Um,
only become problems because of how they're framed in the mind of the person. So, for
mhm.
example, there are a few people, yeah, in my circle who have had marriage issues, and immediately when they have marriage issues, they have a reflex of blaming other people, and not even necessarily their wife or husband, but they have this go-to thing that they blame. So it could be that, oh, you guys told me to marry her, you pressured me to marry her, and she's no good, and it's something like that. So
Yeah.
there's these kind of knee-jerk reactions or these automatic behaviors which are not truly honest, Yanni.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard for us, I think, to delve into these. Like, my assumption of your marriage is that it's good and it's positive and you communicate, etc. And that's how I view my marriage as well. So it's difficult to put myself in the position of someone who hasn't necessarily had that
Yeah.
blessing, right? But I've dealt with a lot of domestics when I was in the police, and I've seen a lot of crazy stuff. And I suppose you see it. My exposure to it is when it's reached a critical point. So nobody's got their head screwed on correctly at
Yeah.
that point. We're talking
Yeah.
violence.
Yeah.
We're talking abuse. We're talking all sorts of stuff from both angles, men and women,
Yeah.
to each other. And obviously, I see divorced friends, and they'll show me the conversations they have with their ex-partners and how crazy it is, and how how insane it can be, and how resentful and how much hatred there is for each other, and how just the kids get lost in the source, and it all becomes about control. So,
Well,
yeah,
this is the
it,
thing. Like,
communication is really important, but
I think I'm a good person to talk about empathy with, because I, how do I say it? I've said
you
I
suck at
suck
it.
at it in the sense where I've had these conversations with my business partner before, where I'm like,
Yeah.
my business partner's upset because of something I've done. And the only thing I could say to him at that point was, I'm sorry. Like, I can't remember what exactly I said, but basically I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't even know how how to put myself in your shoes. Like, I don't know how to feel like you feel, or to, when I even try and think how it's like to
Wow.
be like you, I can't do it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And,
I could tell that.
but it's interesting when you're aware of it though, you know what I mean? Um,
Yeah, of
because
course. Of
what,
course.
like I think most people who are, I think the term is like sociopath, right? That's like where you literally cannot feel other people's feelings or whatever. Um, I'm not saying I'm
Yeah.
that level, but I definitely have some sort of weakness there. And it's
Hmm.
in most people, I think they don't know or they don't care that they have it, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I kind of understand, like, it's just part of how Allah made me. But then it's like, okay, well, what's next? Like, what do I do about it? Right. And that's where I like
Yeah.
try to approach it almost in a engineering type of, it's like a technical challenge now. It's like, how do I learn this skill of,
Yeah.
how do I learn this skill of putting myself in other people's shoes, or trying to imagine what it would be like to be like that person? And
Yeah.
it's pretty difficult,
Yeah.
but it's also allowed me to think about, okay, what does it mean to communicate? And, what I like, and I think like, it's not the most elegant way, but it's like that kind of framework of, you did this, and then I felt this, and that makes me feel this, like this type of formulaic,
Mm.
formulaic conversation or communication style. I think it's a good baby step for beginners who don't know how to communicate. Basically, they feel like, admit it, in it. When you say, I feel this, or like, I feel frustrated, even, I feel like the hard ones, not the easy ones, like, oh, I'm angry or I'm tired. No, but like that made me feel vulnerable. That made me feel disrespected. That made me feel weak. Yeah. These types of things.
Yeah.
If you can get yourself beyond not feeling too vulnerable to say those things, I think you'll go so far, man. And I think sometimes, again, I feel this is elementary level communication, but I guess most people need it,
Mm.
and I think it's helped me a lot. And yeah, sometimes you just have to tell someone. Like, recently, I was dealing with a couple that were having issues, and the guy was like, oh, she doesn't respect me. And I'm like, okay, give me an example. And he said, oh, she
Mm.
did this. And I said, okay, that's pretty disrespectful, but at least give her the chance and give her the education, basically, that to you, that is disrespectful, because most people will assume that their definition is the same as everyone else's. So it's like, You might be
Mm.
annoyed. You might think it's ridiculous that I have to teach someone what respect and disrespect is. But I'm like,
Yep. Yep.
at least give them the yellow card, right? At least like say, I've explained now that that is disrespectful. And by the way, Nu'man Ali Khan, he explained this beautifully about the Prophet ﷺ. He was saying that honoring the Prophet ﷺ is based on what Allah defines it as, not what you define it as. And that
Yeah.
and that
Okay.
could
Yeah.
apply
Yeah.
the same to your wife or husband. What they define as disrespect is what matters, not what you define it as.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
they haven't communicated that to you, or you haven't asked or whatever,
Yeah.
then you're literally speaking different languages sometimes.
Yeah. And it's about relinquishing that kind of understanding sometimes, because for some aspects you will never understand and you'll never truly appreciate
Yeah.
the value someone
Well,
has
that's
to
what I mean.
something. And
You
you
don't
have
get to
to,
judge it.
yeah.
Like you've married this person now, right? If they
Yep.
don't like chicken, you can't explain to them and convince them to like chicken. They don't like chicken. You
Yeah.
have to live with it now. Just how they
Yeah.
find
And
that disrespectful, it is what it is, man.
there is adaptability. There is, some things a bit like osmosis, and you
Yeah,
kind of take
perhaps.
on
Yeah,
some of the characteristics of your
yeah.
spouse with time. But ultimately, if you really love someone, like I wear my emotions on my sleeve, bro. I'm open book with my emotions. So I feel like I feel very deeply. I love very
Do you?
deeply.
But are
I
you able
care
to like
deeply about.
communicate that in a very clear way?
I think
Okay,
so. I
that's
believe
good.
so. And I think like when someone is struggling with something, it keeps me up at night. If I care about someone and they are going through something that I'm not going through, I literally stay up at night thinking about how to help. And like, I can't, my friend's going through his like divorce. I can't, it's on my mind all the time. If my wife's going through something, I can't function unless I'm finding ways of alleviating that or doing something that can make it better, whatever that might potentially be. My mother could send me a text and she'll be a bit down. Everything stops, bro. Like I need to figure out what I can do. I remember like back in the day when my mom would be upset with me and she would like give me the silent treatment. Game over. I'm doing everything in my power to get her to
I think
talk
what you're
to me,
describing,
right? And I do that with my, I'll do that with everyone, like anyone, like even a friend. Actually, a friend could be upset with me over something. Nope, need to solve it. I can't. I have this characteristic where I cannot leave the house if there's a problem. Like I have to solve the problem. If there's an argument or disagreement with any member of my family or my friends, can't deal with it. I
okay,
have to
let me
solve it.
ask you
Can't leave the room.
a deep probing question now. Not that probing, but what's the difference between that? Like what you're describing, I would kind of describe that as like that's part of the definition of love is feeling that way, okay? But
Okay.
what's the line between that and needing validation? Like needing to know that you're on good terms
Good
with that
question.
person, and it's like for you to be okay, you need people to like
Mm,
be okay with you.
yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Like I justify it to myself in my head that whether this is genuine or not, but I always say, well, if I was to get hit by a car or something's to happen to you during this process, I'll never forgive myself. And I have that always running in my head. But whether subconsciously it is just a cry for validation, I don't know. I've never really thought that deeply about it. But it doesn't stop it from being a reality in my life. And I, you know, I recognize that some people just need space. Some people just need time and space to deal with
Yes.
things, and that's something I've had to
Yes.
learn. I've had to learn to let people have their
Me too.
space,
Yeah.
and and then come back to it when
Yeah.
they're ready. I've also had times where I've needed space, but generally speaking, I know in myself, I just want you to care as much as I do. So if I'm upset with you, secretly, I just want you to come and like chase my validation in a way, just to show that you care as much as I do, right? So everybody's different. I think it's recognizing that. But I've learned that everything I've just said now is something I might have said to my wife one day, or something I've communicated. I've said it definitely to my wife, but have I communicated with wider people? Maybe not as much. But your most intimate relationship is going to be with your wife. So if you can communicate that, and that aspect of you, and that gets recognized. I remember, the marriage we had 10 years ago compared to what we have now is one of deep crossover and communication. There are so many aspects of her character that have adapted to kind of alleviate my concerns, and vice versa. There are things that, she may have had as, non-negotiables. I just never understood and maybe had some friction towards, but I've just accepted them. And then I will teach my children those things without any real rhyme or explanation, but just say that's the fact, that's the way it is, and that's the way it's going to be, because that makes your mother happy, and that's the important thing. It could be anything. I'm trying to think of like even the most vague example. Like you said earlier, not inviting anyone over unless the house is pristine. That's something that many women have. A guy might not understand that, might not really care. Like, I've been to my friend's house. Like, I said it actually not too long ago. I said, I might have my friend Mohammed over for a night. She's like, well, make sure you tell me because the house has to be. I was like, darling, I've been to Mohammed's house. It's terrible because he lives on his own. Like, he's got clothes everywhere and stuff. I'm like, don't worry, he's not going to judge you. It's like, no, it has to be perfect. And you just learn
Well,
to accept that, right?
That's
You
like
learn to,
empathy, isn't it? Like, and even
yeah,
if
of
you
course.
don't get it, like, why, like, logically, maybe it doesn't make sense. Why do you have to care so much about how the house looks and this and blah blah blah? But if you
Yeah,
feel
of
like
course.
that,
You
then
could
you
say
feel
that,
like
yeah.
that, and that's what it is. Yeah,
You feel like that. Exactly. And you might think it's actually like a tongue in cheek and a bit of a joke, but it actually may be genuinely serious for your partner. Or it's a whole bro, you could write books and
yeah.
books and
We've
books on
gone
this stuff.
from
And
getting
if you're not
married
willing
to
to put the
staying
effort
married
in,
now.
keeping it, yeah, but it's part of
Yeah,
it, because I think the empathy starts even in getting to know someone for marriage, because that's when the discussions often creep up. It's like, oh, I find this thing really important. Oh, I have a thing about this or that. Straight away, you're like, oh, what are we talking about? That's stupid. And then the conversation breaks down already.
yes.
You know,
Instead
you've
of
got
being
to, you've got
curious,
to,
being judgmental, like immediately. You know what I mean? Yeah.
100%. Be like, okay, you're a good sister. You've got all of this going for you. Okay. Oh, there's this one thing that you're a bit funny about. Oh, there's this other thing you're a bit funny about. Instead of saying, oh, I don't like it, I can work with that. I can make room for that. Because there's always going to be
Yeah.
something. It's a bit of a pick your poison kind of
Yeah.
scenario. And you shouldn't marry someone expecting that, okay, that thing about them is, an optional like or dislike. That thing about them, I'm going to change it when they get married. Like, that's
Yeah.
another thing.
That.
How many guys do we see? Oh my God. Oh yes, actually she's great, but this one thing I'll change it. I'll make sure. She said she'll change for me. He said he'll change for me. Shut up.
What do you think about this? I heard one brother say this recently online, and I think I actually agreed with it now. He said, "Don't have kids." Um, was it in the first year or first 2 years of marriage? Delay having kids. Make sure you're fully compatible. You're actually like on the right same wavelength. Then
Nah.
no.
Nah. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe because I didn't, but to me, I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It kind of, because you kind of start the marriage off on suspicion, and that kind of sucks.
Well, no, not
You're like,
suspicious. It's
ooh,
not. It depends how you frame it, bro. Like, yes, if it's like, look,
yeah.
everything she said to you, she could have been lying,
Ooh, I'm not
and
sure.
so watch out.
Yeah.
No, not like that. It's just like the truth of the matter is the divorce rate is like over, I don't know, 30%. So there's a 1 in 3 chance that you'll get divorced probabilistically. Um, so divorce is just so much easier when there's no kids involved for everyone. So, just tread lightly. Just, you could frame it however you like. You could call it your honeymoon year. You could call it whatever you want, man. Um,
I don't look. I don't mind. I don't mind the goal of like getting to know each other better and trying to, you know, enjoy each other's company and
yeah,
all that stuff
finding
without kids.
stability.
Fine,
We could
but
call it
like,
that, finding stability.
yeah, you could say that. But like I don't like any hard decisions. I'm really
What do you mean,
against that,
what's a
and
hard decision?
like a hard, like oh, for this first year, for the first
Or like a
365 days, we're
rigid
not having
one?
kids, and yeah, like anything rigid, and like I don't like that, because I hate making decisions for your
Bro, you're
future
like the
self.
opposite of
Like,
me in every single way. It's hilarious.
it's and we and we both flourish in our own
Yin and
ways,
yang,
inshallah.
bro.
I just can't deal. Like, sometimes my wife might say, "Oh, I want to be like this, whatever, when I'm 30, or when I'm this, when I'm 35." I'm like, listen, wait till we get
Yeah.
there. Just focus on the here and now and tomorrow, and that's it. Don't look
Mm.
beyond that. Because the moment you start thinking like that, you just get in your head about the
Yeah.
future and trying to plan like, just go with the flow and like live your life like a
Yeah.
traveler.
When you,
I mean, I get it. You've got to plan for certain things, of course, but
yeah,
it can consume a mind.
bro, when you go into this, even just like Myers-Briggs personality tests, those ones that are like INFJ or whatever it is, it's very interesting, bro. When you go into this psychographics, um,
Yeah.
for example, the J, that last letter in those four letters, you could be a J or something. I don't know what the other one is because I know I'm a J. J is like judging. It stands for judging. So it's like you like to
Yeah.
have clear boundaries around things and everything has to have a very clear definition. And you like to put things in boxes
Yeah.
and categories. You're very uncomfortable with not something that's not in a category. That's judging, right? That's a personality trait.
Mm.
So yeah, when you get into this stuff, it's very interesting. But okay, last thing I want to say on this topic, and then we'll end, inshallah. Um, we were talking about the marriage apps and stuff, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
I I'm actually quite passionate about marriage and family building and stuff, just because I really, really believe it's like the building block for the ummah. So I really like believe in
Hmm.
that, and this belief has stayed with me for years and years. So it's not just a phase.
Hmm.
I feel like there's room, as much as people hate the marriage apps, I think there's room for loads of marriage apps or loads of marriage services or
Okay.
whatever. But they could just be like
Yeah.
niche ones. For example, marriage apps for divorced parents or divorced Muslims.
Yeah.
And it's like, by the fact that you're defining it as that and you're niching it down to that, the mood changes, the expectations are set in a certain way. I think I
Okay.
think I think you need a design mind, right? I know this brother, shout out to Ahmed T. He's a sick designer, and he's not just a designer like graphic design. He designs user flows and interfaces. And these decisions that are made by like product teams and stuff when it comes to apps and stuff, it actually impacts behavior and psychology and blah blah blah. So I think we could create a new type of marriage app which is actually designed to succeed, and where it's like, I guess it's like not based on just keeping churning and burning users, but it's like you might even
Yeah.
charge people higher amount or whatever, but they actually get married. For example, what if we we could try this out. Do a marriage app where there are no photos and you're served one profile at a time, and it's quite detailed. And if you
Okay.
swipe, what I don't know what direction it is to not match with them, yeah. If you swipe that way, you're never finding them again. But if you
Yeah.
swipe the other way, you know, it you can chat to them for, let's say, 48 hours, and in those 48 hours you got to decide if you want to meet them or not. None of this is forcing them to make a
Yeah.
decision on marriage. It's forcing them to judge on different things. It's forcing them to actually make decisions. It's giving a bit of scarcity. And I haven't even put much thought into this, but you see how you can make some interesting decisions that could increase the actual helpfulness of these services.
Mm. Mm. Uh. Yeah. I'm thinking of maybe marriage apps with more intermediaries. Like matchmakers, actual humans that
Well,
are
that's
matching
another idea I
people.
had, which is you it could be done through a real like interview, like online, where someone's like asking you questions about yourself in a like free flowing conversation. But it could also be done through like a very detailed kind of quiz, like a personality quiz type of style. And then we use AI to match people. And it's like we know that people that
Mm.
describe themselves this way match very well with people who describe themselves that way, and we match them like that. And it's like based on like next level of data points, we think like the AI is the matchmaker. Like we think you're compatible.
Oh
Now you
no.
guys can like obviously you
Yeah.
can talk to each other. Yeah, you
Figure it
can like
out.
work about. We think you're compatible. You know what I mean? So I think that's a good use of AI actually.
Aren't these all these TV shows like matchmaking things as well? I
Like
remember
what?
they had Blind Date.
Blind, but blind date that doesn't sound
Um,
like.
I remember that one.
Is that like
No, I'm
the
not saying that.
brother Baba
I'm just.
Ali? He has that half hour Dean thing.
Oh yeah.
So what do they do, bro? I don't think they've got like this swiping type of marriage app. They've got maybe they do both, but they've got these events where you apply to come to the events. They force it to be, I think, 50-50 men and women. And then
Right.
they will only let you come if they think you've got a match there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can
Yeah.
meet more
Okay.
than one person on the day, but if they don't if for example, if you're 5'7" and every single woman says their husband must be at least 5'9", they just won't let you come because it just doesn't make sense, right?
Right.
So they do it in a more of a
Yeah.
manual, like they actually play a little bit of that role of matchmaker. And then I think they do these activities which kind of open you up and show your personality in real life type of thing. So that's interesting. And I think they have a good success rate.
I just I find it all so because I haven't got any experience. I just keep going back to this comparison thief of
Yeah.
joy thing because like you've got one guy in the room. Oh, he's a handsome guy. You've got 10 guys in the room. Well, how handsome is he compared to everyone else?
Yeah.
You know, like
Although 10 is
this is
better
what
than
happens.
10,000.
And
Yeah.
you've got then you've got everyone, all the sisters pooling towards one guy. Suddenly the guy's spoiled for choice. No one gets married. Maybe one person gets married.
He's
That's
like,
it.
look,
Do you see what I'm
he's
trying
like,
to
look,
say? Like,
we could do a deal here, okay? I'll take I'll
oh no,
take
no, no, no,
A,
no,
B, and C or no one. And then they're like, no.
no one, no dice. But you see, like, all this is why, like, I would love to. Maybe we should do it one day because we are those guys. We're the love
No,
after.
you are right.
We should get
I'm the
a
psychic.
marriage app.
Was it sociopath apparently? No, not that bad, bro.
Maybe,
Alhamdulillah.
yeah. But we play off each other. Like, we both seem to be doing all right with our different approaches. But like, we should get. I'm clueless. Wallahi, like completely don't know how what the I speak to a friend of mine who's on these apps and he just keeps telling me nobody's serious. And I'm like, okay, I can imagine no one being
Yeah.
serious because you're just swiping
Yeah.
all the time. You always think someone else is to be better. And I'd love to see speak to someone who's either got married through well, not even got married through there actually. Someone who's behind these apps, someone we could speak to
Yeah.
and just get a bit of insight on the
Yeah.
struggles and on the experiences. Look, I'm sure they're going to be trying to sell their app. That's the only issue. They're going to be saying, yeah, well, we had this many successes, blah, blah, blah. Or, or maybe one of the matchmaker would be great. I'd love to speak to a matchmaker. I saw like one Muslim woman that does it on Instagram once, but I don't know if like, I don't know what her agenda is or whatever. I think she just matches anyone and everyone that is Muslim. It's not necessarily like a practicing Muslim focused kind of thing, you know. Um,
Well, you need to have a
but
database in it to be a
yeah,
matchmaker.
yeah, but I don't think you need like I don't think you need a large scale thing. I think you just need matchmakers in certain
Yeah.
communities, certain
Certain
areas.
niches, basically.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, certain niches as well.
What's his name?
Um,
Imran had that Sunnah match. That attracted a certain crowd, and so even if it only had 500 members, I could see people finding a husband or wife there because it's a certain crowd. You know what I mean?
yeah, 100%, 100%. And I think the best matchmakers are probably couples, because they can be a bridge between two. Like me and my wife, like we've put my friends in contact with potentials before. Not that they've worked out necessarily, but we've come very
Yeah.
close. A friend of mine asked for what he's looking for. We put it out there, and then my wife spoke to a sister that was really, really close to what he wanted. And I spoke, we were mediating between them, and then it didn't work out in the end, but we were very close. And I think that's what matchmakers need to be, ideally, just couples that can share their experience. You and your wife have been married for long enough. You've got kids. You've got all the hallmarks of what it takes to be married, and all these milestones and stuff. So,
Sure and
if a friend
sensible.
came to you, Aki, and
Oh.
said, "Oh, I'm looking to get," yeah, if I'm looking to get married, could you speak to your wife and see if she knows anyone? There you go. You're essentially
Well, I do
matchmaking,
that,
really.
before
So,
people don't ask me, I tell them. I say, I'm going to find you a wife. Most of the time they say, no, 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 they're too scared.
no, brother, please. I can't do it. I don't know emotional
Oh, you
empathy
just
yet.
reminded me, this
Teach
one
me.
brother, alhamdulillah, I discouraged him from it, but his marriage situation broke down, alhamdulillah. He was going to make a bad decision. But then I said, I'll find you a wife. You reminded me, I need to find him a wife still.
Wow, fantastic. Great.
Yeah,
Do it, bro.
inshallah.
And then you can rub it in his face for the rest of his life. And then when he has kids, you can say, "Hey, you see, you guys,
Yeah,
this guy here,
I'm your
Amul,
uncle.
I'm your uncle." Look at this. We did this. You would have been nothing without me.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
alhamdulillah.
I think the best tech solutions are built off what's organically worked, for a long time, what's proven, and you just try and replicate that exact same thing, but maybe more scalable or more
Mm,
whatever. The whole dating apps were not designed like that. They're designed with a whole new mechanism,
no.
which will bring new results, different types of results to the previous types. In this case, probably bad,
Mm,
right? So think about how people got married from communities, villages, towns, whatever. What were the ingredients, and then try and replicate that. Maybe one day, bro. I mean, with this vibe coding stuff, bro, I got the Claude Max plan now, and I just been spamming Fable 5, and I feel invincible, bro.
mm.
Not invincible, astaghfirullah. I feel like a developer. I'm
Well,
like,
I feel like my laptop will just implode if I try and do anything with it these days.
I
So
think
I'm
I
touch
don't
and go.
even know if is Claude Code working in the cloud or on your laptop. I don't even know. But um
I don't know.
I tell it, okay, because I'm very good. That's whole my whole thing is like systems thinking and process thinking and all that, right? So I'm like, I need a web app that will do this and then this and then this and then this and then this. And I'll usually have like Claude skills. So I'm like, it will do this Claude skill, which will lead to this next Claude skill and blah, blah, blah. And then it will just do it. Yeah. And obviously on the front end looks sick and all that. And then I'm like, okay, what do I need to do to actually make this like usable? And it's like, oh, you need a backend, you need a database. And I'm like, okay, do it. I'm like, do
Ah,
it. And then it's
do
like,
it.
oh, well, you need an API. I'm like, okay, I'll give you the API key, no problem. Here's the API. Now do it. And then they'll actually do it.
I'll do it. Work harder,
Yeah.
bot.
Yeah. Crazy.
Ah,
All right, let's end it there, man. It's actually
I
past
don't know, man. I'm
midnight.
still.
I think you're running on adrenaline right
It
now, man.
is. I'm running on. Yeah, bro. I'm just. Yeah. It's been crazy. Walillahi
Ya
alhamd.
Rabbil Alameen.
It's fine.
Okay. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Let us know what you think. Did we solve the problems or did we make them worse? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Excellent.